Hey guys, this is Afshin at Streaming Truth. I know it's been forever since I did a live and had anybody on for that matter, but tonight I'm joined with by Megan from the Eclectic Journalist, good friend of mine from church, believe it or not, some from back in Spokane when I was pastoring there for the last 10 years. So she's a good friend, a previous church member. And she also now does her own podcast. So I want to invite you guys to go and check that out at the Eclectic Journalist on YouTube. I'll put the link later into the stream. And so what we're talking about tonight, what prompted me to come back on after my hiatus in Florida, where we've been for a couple years now, and I've just been focused on family and work and things like that. But with Tucker Carlson kind of brought me out of hiding uh, because of certain comments that he made recently about the Book of Esther, really going into questioning or undermining the authority or the scriptural authority of the Book of Esther in a recent comment. And along with all the other, a lot of people think Tucker's gone kind of crazy and he's like had a sudden turn, especially when he had an encounter with a demon and all of this thing that we're going to get into. But before we dive into it, I want to introduce my guest, Megan, and let her say hello. But mainly, we're going to just be looking at primarily the Book of Esther and its scriptural authority, and then see where the conversation takes us politically as well. So, Megan, welcome to the channel.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so great to have you here. We had such a great conversation. I had a 2-hour conversation with Megan on her channel last week, and that's going to be a video that's going to come out probably next week, Megan. Would you say sometime?
Yeah, and I think it was actually 3 hours.
Oh, was it? So time flies, right? It was.
Yeah, we had a great conversation about it was mostly about Zionism, but we also threw in a little bit of ideology in there. It was sort of just like a free flow conversation.
And that's what I really enjoyed about it. We talked a lot, and I just want to preface all this. I know there are people on my channel that some are very Zionist, some are anti-Zionist, some are maybe in the middle or aren't sure. But that was the main topic that we began to touch on because it's such an in-depth and huge topic with so many shades of subtlety and different nuances within that topic. But we basically took 3 hours, I guess. I think the first half, we kind of looked at it politically, right? And then we talked scripture and theology some as well. And then the second half, we really got into more like some of like the verses or doctrines and things like that, which was a good conversation anyway. I'm looking forward to seeing the final product on that, Megan.
Yeah, I am too.
Well,
Editing and doing all that stuff because I have a book that I'm reading. I do a book club, so I have a book that comes out. And then I have that Candace Owens series I'm doing that comes out on
oh man,
Fridays. And so I will record a bunch of stuff like over the weekend and then I will, try to edit them as fast as I can to get them out when on a regular time schedule. So,
yeah, yeah, exactly. So that'll be great. And I'm checking your private chat. If you want, I'll throw you a wrench. That's what they are for the admin, right? But
oh no, no, no. That's fine. I was just saying like I don't like these circles like on the
oh,
screen. I was
okay.
like,
Oh man, okay. That's so
I don't
Meg.
know why, but they make me nervous, like, when it's a
Really?
circle. Yeah.
Here,
I
so I can like put us here.
No, no, like, you can it's
And
fine, don't worry about it.
and
If you don't have them as
uh,
squares, like, you can make it to where we're in a square instead of a
I
circle.
know there's a setting because I changed it to a circle at some point. But yeah, it
Okay.
would take me some time to figure out
Don't
stream.
worry about it. You could put it back how they were. It's
That's
fine.
funny. So, but we will share. I want to share a video of something Tucker said. I have like 3 Tucker videos, like short clips, like 2, 3 minutes for the most
Oh,
part.
I know, like, I saw him say that stuff, and we were just talking about him because he's baffling everybody, like, he's
Yeah.
being very odd, and so people are really trying to figure out what's going on with him, and then I saw him the next day being like, the so-called Book of Esther, and I'm like, "So-called? What is all this attitude about?"
It's crazy, and we'll get into that. I want to play that video for people watching, and then we can kind of go back and dissect it because there's like 3 or 4 things in there that he said that were just crazy. They're just, way out of context and um, just basically misinformation, malinformation, whatever you want to call it about the Bible, and really just undermining the authority of Esther. So why don't we start with that, Megan? And I think it's right here. So you actually sent me this, which is what prompted this discussion too. And I was like, what? I had to come out and do a video on this. But this is from X, is where it was posted originally.
That's the core problem right there. Who knows what this is? It's not Christianity. It's not what the Gospels describe. Yesterday at the White House, they all show up, middle of Christian Holy Week, 4 days before Easter, and not just the fringe Christian Zionist, John Hagee or these strange people, but the big guys. Franklin Graham, son of Billy Graham, shows up at the White House yesterday.
I just wanted to stop there for a minute and just
Oh, okay.
kind of comment a little bit, but sorry about that, guys. Muted there. But basically, I was saying my blood was like boiling. I had to stop there because he's talking about the war in Iran, just to give kind of the context. And you guys, if some of you probably know, I was actually born in Iran, am a U.S. citizen, and I'm actually in many ways very happy about what's going on in terms of destroying the authority or the power of the IRGC. But that's a whole nother topic. And that's, another big topic that I don't even want to really get into that much, but that's the context here of, what he's talking about with Franklin Graham coming to talk about, or pray over the president about this war in Iran. And of course, Franklin Graham is, I guess, apparently he's for it, which I'm for it. So I don't see, I don't see a problem with that. But at the same time, I mean, I'm not pro-war in the sense. I mean, all war is evil, in many sense, but sometimes it's just necessary. But I don't want to get off too much on that. But wanted to give that background there. Did you want to say anything about that, Megan, before?
Um, yeah, so like my only issue with the war thing is I just don't like how people are like talking about it in black and white terms. So you have people like you and the diaspora who have like very strong feelings that are valid. And then in Iran, there are a lot of people that actually are not happy with this war. You know what I'm saying? But people are making it into that everybody there is like 90% of the population is just with it. And so I'm certainly against the IRGC, and I really hope that they fail, and like collapse. But I just also want to be like realistic about people and like not look at countries black and white. So that's my only. And then I also don't like how Tucker and people like him are using this for political, like, these are people like in a very difficult situation. They're being bombed, or people here are having very strong feelings if they're Iranian about this, and they're using people's emotions and feelings and stuff for political, agenda.
I mean, that's always gonna, yeah, that's politics and media, right? But I
Yeah,
mean, it's interesting because, and I don't want to get too sidetracked from Esther here, even though, as you guys are all going to see, it's all interrelated with the kings of Persia and the Jews and
right. Yes.
Israel, and um, but I do like, so it's a tough thing because, yeah, we don't want like anybody to die, or wars, tragic in so many ways. But then I do hear from, like, I know people on the inside who, and I've seen tons of videos where they are cheering when the bombs drop. Not everybody, of
There,
course.
yeah, no, there are people inside that don't that want it, and there are people inside that don't want it. So there's people that go out on the streets at night with the Iranian flag and just like in support of their country. And some of them don't necessarily even like the IRGC. It's just that when you're being attacked by another country, I mean, just think about it. If Biden was in control and they started being even more authoritarian, and then Russia came in and just started like wiping out all of our leadership, we wouldn't care about like the culture war.
Many would side with Russia on that one, I bet. It would.
I don't know, man. I think people would like all join together. You know what I mean? So
you would hope so. You would hope so. But yeah, I don't want to get too far off into Iran, but we'll come back to it. But I will say, like, at least the people I know in Iran and people I know here that are Persian, like not that they want war, but they want the regime gone, like the vast majority.
Yes.
And that gets into the whole Reza Pahlavi, which I'm very much for. And, but not to get too sidetracked, I just want to say that's the context. And it is nuanced, and war is a terrible thing. But, the Bible even says in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for peace and a time for war. And unfortunately, we live in this fallen world where war is sometimes as evil or tragic as it is necessary. But let's just hope we don't get caught up in a long war. But let's continue here. We'll come back to all this.
Which is a war crime, but more important, it's a moral crime. You can't kill people who have committed no crime, who did nothing wrong. You can't murder the innocent. You can't kill kids and women. And yet Franklin Graham is up there standing at the podium praying for that. Now, how do you do that? Well, by quoting something called the Book of Esther, which is in
something called the Book of Esther. He's already beginning to undermine it. It's just something called, like anything else, the Book of Esther. Whereas, it's the Bible, actually. But okay, let's continue.
I know Candace Owens and him both do that with their manipulative language, where they set a framing up before they go into the actual topic. They set it up in a framing way so that the audience already starts to have negative feelings.
Wow. Right. It's even in his tone, isn't it? As he leads up to that, to kind of manipulate the audience into like exactly what you said, right? To have like a negative experience or feeling towards the person he's talking about. Yeah, that's a good point, Megan. Let's continue here.
Controversial book for a long time. Martin Luther thought it shouldn't have been there, but it is there. And it's the story, among other things, of a genocide of Persians. Oh, yeah. 70.
Okay, we have to come back to this. I want to play the rest of it through. Then I want to come back and address Martin Luther, the Persians. I want you to see get the whole message, and we'll come back to these parts.
5,000 Persians. Not just people who committed crimes, but people who were Persian, and that's why they were killed. And it's in the Book of Esther, which you should read because it's interesting. It also happens to be, maybe not coincidentally, the only book in the Christian Bible, Old and New Testaments, that doesn't mention God. There's no mention of God in the Book of Esther. Now,
we'll definitely be returning to that.
There are all kinds of theologians, leaders, who are preaching a religion that bears no resemblance to Christianity. So that Holy Week.
Oh, okay, I guess that was it. It just looped back around. So he ended with, let's actually go to like maybe the 1 minute mark, and then I want to dissect some of it.
For that.
There.
Now, how do you do that? Well, by quoting something called the Book of Esther, which is in the Christian Old Testament, a controversial book for a long time. Martin Luther thought it shouldn't have been there, but.
Okay, let's talk about that, Megan. Have you heard that Martin Luther? How much have you heard about this whole Esther?
So I I don't know about the Martin Luther thing, but why do I care what Martin Luther thinks? Thomas Jefferson removed whole books from the Bible and like rearranged it and stuff. And we don't sit around and go, oh, well, Thomas Jefferson, said,
That is a good
um,
point you make.
and
Yeah,
also like I don't understand how he doesn't know how significant the Book of Esther is. You know what I mean? Like how, because he mentioned that it's the only place that doesn't mention God. How he should know the story behind that growing up in church at his age. You know what I mean?
I think so. I mean, he should if he's a believer, but and studies his Bible. But yeah, I mean, I want to get to the no mention of God thing as well, because that's a whole nother, big part of it. I mean, I even have like the Book of Esther pulled up and all the pertinent parts that we can go over, depending on how much time. But let me keep going on. Martin Luther. Martin Luther, before I forget. Um, I want to share a couple quotes about Martin Luther, because why Martin Luther? I mean, obviously he's significant in the sense of the Protestant Reformation, and there's a lot of good that came out of the Protestant Reformation. But like Megan said, he's not like our authority for scripture, but he did question the Book of Esther. I exposed a guy named Tex Mars.
Was he talking about Martin Luther King or like
No,
the original Martin Luther?
Martin Luther, the Protestant Reformation.
Oh, okay. Because in my brain, I was
You're
thinking
thinking
Martin.
Martin Luther King Jr. Well,
Yeah.
but you make a good point in that it doesn't matter like who it is. Our authority is the Bible, and that doesn't matter if Martin Luther questioned it. He didn't set the canon of scripture. The canon of scripture was, like Council of Nicaea, or we've got the 66 books, and at least in the Protestant, canon. But regardless of what Martin Luther thought, we had uh, we did have the canon of scripture. It was complete, and Esther did make it into the Bible. But we can go into all of that. But the reason I bring up Martin Luther is he was extremely anti-Jewish. And I don't know if you know that about Martin Luther. I want to share.
Oh.
So there's a connection between Martin Luther and this idea where you get to a point where you hate the Jews so much that you start denying the Book of Esther. I do think it's like an anti-Jewish thing, and I know that's like a sensitive topic because you've got like your anti-Zionists and you've got your pro-Zionists, you've got hyper extremes on both sides of that. But when it comes to like the point that you're denying the Book of Esther and saying it's too Jewish of a book is essentially what Martin Luther says and what Tucker thinks basically, then you're not just anti-Zionist, you're actually anti-Jewish at that point. I mean, doesn't that sound, what do you think, Megan? Are you muted, Megan? All right. Might have dropped off Megan. Maybe Megan, if you can hear me.
Sorry, I had to the kids were messing with the dog, which was then making them like start
Oh,
barking.
okay.
So
Okay, cool. So let me actually not just
so
play,
wait, I missed the Luther thing. You were saying
so
he
Luther was like viciously like anti-Jewish and like anti-Semitic, or I'm not talking about the
wow.
people of like Semitic Shem, people get technical about the words. But what he was like hardcore. And I want to play you or show you, let me find this here. There's like a quote by Martin Luther. Let me just go to it here. I got to go to my videos or files here. Let me pull this up. All right, let me know if you can see that. You can see that, right? So
Yes.
here is an actual quote from Martin Luther, in his own words, from his own writing, basically the leader of the Protestant Reformation, right? Which again, there's so much good that came out of the Protestant Reformation, even though I'm a Baptist, but we can't deny the fact the value of the Protestant Reformation, to give us like the Bible and a handheld version, and there's a lot to it. But he was I mean, seriously anti-Jewish. He goes, the Jews as they are today are veritably a mixture of all the depraved and malevolent knaves of the whole world over, to afflict the different nations with their usury, to spy upon others and to betray, to poison wells, to deceive and to kidnap children. In short, to practice all kinds of dishonesty and injury. What do you think about that quote?
Well, I mean, that's really, I didn't know that he was like that. But also, I feel like sometimes they do spy and have usury. So I think people are just,
Like
you
the
know what I mean?
whole
I
Rothschild, but Jewish bankers. I mean,
I
like,
just think that people are putting on like too much onto just like when you're a Christian, you're not supposed to be put the sins of like one person or a few or whatever on an entire group of people, because as a Christian you're supposed to look at people individually and stuff. So I feel like people are the something about the Jewish people makes people like not do that, because like with every other group, you know what I'm saying, you do that, but with this one specific group you don't, you know what I mean, it's just all of them, right?
well, yeah, I mean,
And
it's all lumped
I
into
think
like
that that's
the Jews.
weird, don't you think that that's weird,
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you're talking about, so you're saying that it's the Jews who are collectively targeted as a group rather than like
Well,
just,
I don't I think other countries might selectively target other people like, but I'm saying as Americans like and Christians, we tend to not do that except for with the Jews.
like we lump them all like into one group, like as Americans, or it's like, I mean, there's been a strain of this is such like we talked about. I almost wish people had heard our first discussion that we had about this, because it lays so much of the groundwork for what we're talking about with like Zionism versus anti-Zionism versus how far do you go into becoming actually like hating actual entire groups of people or demographics. And there's different shades of that. There's different spectrums of that, from like the far left to the far right, and or the far left, and the
I
fringes of
mean, it's
all of that.
almost like people don't know that there's just, there are just like regular Jews that just live in houses like me and you, or
Well,
even
that's the
like,
majority. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like if you look at the population numbers, the vast majority of them are just regular people that go to their jobs. I mean, they're not like, at the top of every, every single Jew isn't at the top of every single thing and every single decision making thing. So what I'm saying is I'm confused as to why we just, say, like the Jews or this or that as if they're all one thing,
That's
you know.
you have an interesting way, like angle of looking at things. I hadn't thought of it exactly like that. It's not like I mean, it's like there's like like we're specifically, people are pointing out the Jews. It's really a dividing issue, even in the world. It's like it's such a polarizing issue for so many people, and all of the world's conflicts, or many of them, seem to be centered around, the Zionist question, which is ultimately in many ways a Jewish question, right? So,
Like, for example, nobody says the Japanese are, you know, a veritable mixture of, this Asian ethnicity and they're behind every, you know what I'm saying?
right.
Like,
I mean,
nobody,
the Jews have been historically targeted. I mean, that's like an undeniable fact, and it's still happen. It's like seems like it's happening right now, right? But people try to make it's like not. It's almost like it's not a popular um, topic. Even like it's not popular for me to even say that the Jews are really being targeted. and which will eventually also then be the Christians, because we're next, you know?
And see, the thing is like some of the stuff people say like is true, that certain Jewish people have done X, Y, or Z, right? So that's what makes it so confusing, because then like some people have a really big problem with the donor class, which a lot of on the conservative side, which a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them happen to be Jewish people, American Jews, right? And then so they will point these things out, right? And then but then you can't talk about just that because it offends like both sides of the aisle. You know what I mean? So the super anti-Jewish people will start yelling at you because you're not saying they're Sabbatean, Frank, you know what I mean? Like all this ridiculous stuff. Then the other side will start yelling at you because they think that you're being an anti-Semite, right? So it makes the whole situation like very hard to suss out, and actually
Yeah.
have like conversation about.
Yeah. Well, like we were saying last time, it's such a nuanced and difficult and complex issue. Like, it's people are just want to pick one side or the other. But
Oh,
let me
and you know
play.
how we were talking about Nick Fuentes the other night, and
Yeah.
my opinions on him are slightly controversial, I guess, but I found a video that I watched, and I'll send it to you. And
Okay.
it's two Jewish guys.
Yeah.
It was a very good video. And the title of the video is "I'm a professor. I'm a Jewish professor and Nick Fuentes is right." And so this guy
Interesting.
invites his friend who's a Jewish professor on to talk to him about Nick Fuentes. And then the guy just says, "Well, he's right about that. We are doing that." like several
What?
times. So yeah, but he was saying that Nick is wrong because he's putting it on all Jews. He's like I'm a Jew and I'm not for that. You know what I mean?
Well,
He's like
there's
I'm
Jewish anti-Zionists too, right?
Well, this guy's not an anti-Zionist. He's a very smart professor person. But
Okay.
like for one example, he was saying the guy was asking him, he was repeating things that Nick Fuentes has said. And he said one of them is that that organized Jewry are trying to do mass immigration into Western European countries to dilute the white Christian population. And then the guy was like, "Yes, we are doing that. Here's the organization and the name, and that's what they clearly state." And he was like, the other Jewish man was like, "What?" like so and he's like, "But we're not for that." He's like, We're not for that, just this one group." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not just Jews that think that. It's also, and he explained the thinking behind it, but it is a rules-based order, like blank slate, um like fallacy type way of thinking that the liberals think. And Jews tend to be also liberals, so they get lumped in with a lot of stuff liberals are doing.
Yeah.
um
Well, let me read this to you, Megan, because I don't want to get too sidetracked from getting back to the Book of Esther. I just want to show how far really quick before we get to Tucker. We've got like 18 threads open. Um, we gotta check out what
we got to
Luther's.
focus.
We got to focus in here. But look, this is crazy because he wasn't only, that first sentence paragraph that I read you was like mild compared to like what Luther really thought, which is, and this all connects in that it's going to go back to why Tucker and people like him and Tex Mars before him that I exposed like 8 years ago ultimately turn on the Book of Esther. It really is, like, I think, an anti-Jewish thing. At least this is what you could say circumstantially between Tucker and this guy. He says that their synagogues be burned down and that all who are able toss in sulfur and pitch. It would be good if someone could also throw in some hellfire, that their houses also be razed and destroyed, that all their prayer books and Talmudic writings be taken from them, that their rabbis be forbidden to teach on pain of loss of life and limb. So, like, he was like serious, and I'm not like for
Oh my
Talmudic writing.
gosh.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not like promoting the Talmud. Like, I understand like there's some questionable stuff for the Christian in like the mystic writings of the Talmud and Mishnah and all this stuff. But I mean, he's like, burn their houses down, right? Throw in some hellfire.
Well,
Like,
this is also another reason why historically, like Christians and Jews have had enmity between each other. So it hasn't always been great, right? And so they remember that through their shared, historical stuff. And then,
right.
so it's sort of a weird thing. That's why they really tried to add the Judeo-Christian to it. Like, not them specifically, but just like us as Americans to try to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Not to have that enmity, like, be not so harsh, because it has been kind of crazy if you actually look throughout history.
it has. And the Jews feel like, when Christians try to evangelize them, that they're being persecuted, or to having their culture taken away. Like, that's from their perspective, that's kind of how it's, not by all Jews, of course, like you can't lump everyone, but that's sort of the general sentiment, which is why evangelism is also hard um, among many Jewish communities. But some Jews do get saved. We talked about this more last time, but yeah, this is serious, right? So he's like, forbid them to teach on pain of loss of life and limb. So I think it's safe to say that Luther didn't like the Jews, right?
Yeah.
Right. So let's get back to Tucker Carlson. If I can even find it, I have like way too many things open.
Easter morning promising the murder of civilians and then saying praise be to Allah? This is a mockery not just of Islam, it's a mockery of...
Hold on, that's a different one. Let me remove that. And I think it is back to this one.
It is there. And it's the story, among other things, of a genocide of Persians. Oh, yeah. 75,000 Persians. Not just people who committed crimes, but people who were Persian. And that's why they were killed.
Okay, so I want to address two things here, Megan, and I want to super laser focus into two questions. The fact that he said that God is not mentioned in the Book of Esther, because that's one of the arguments that anti-Esther people who believe that Esther maybe shouldn't be in the canon of Scripture. That's something they bring up, that the word God itself is not specifically mentioned in the Bible. Does that mean that God is not in the Book of Esther? Not the Bible, the whole Bible, but the Book of Esther, that God isn't mentioned in Esther?
Right. So when I learned about the Book of Esther, that was like one of the main things they brought up was that he's not specifically mentioned, but all throughout the book, he's working, right? And so
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
one of the things with the Christians is like, he's working on us, he's working for us, like behind the scenes, he's putting things together for you in your life and making all things work together for good for those that love him. And that is seen everywhere throughout the entire book of Esther.
It
So
is. It's
I
about
don't
God's
know how Tucker
providence.
Carlson could not know that because he seems pretty
It's
knowledgeable on
he
scripture
doesn't
when he
he
wants to
doesn't
be.
he doesn't want to know it. I don't think he wants. I think his Jew hatred has literally
But he
clouded.
wasn't always this man is like in his 60s and he grew up in church. Like,
Sort of. I mean, he grew up like in a like didn't he say he was like in among like the rich elite kind of country club type?
I know, but they still went to church, didn't they? I mean,
I
this was
guess. I
like
don't know.
the
They went to like
50s. Like his
tennis
parents, I'm
club.
sure, went to church.
Maybe probably. I think he said, wouldn't he say he was Presbyterian or something? I feel like maybe
Okay, yes, he is
Presbyterian.
Presbyterian. So,
So, but yeah, yeah, I mean, he should know it. The point you're making is that he should know. He should know better. But I'm getting people that were commenting, even on the channel preparing for this live stream, saying, "Well, it's difficult to accept the Book of Ruth as canon of Scripture because, or Esther, I'm sorry, because God is not mentioned specifically by name in the Book of Esther." So people, even like regular people who are purporting to be Christians, there's like a niche fringe kind of movement. It's usually tied up with anti-Zionism for a lot of people, um, that attacks the Book of Esther. That's what Tex Mars did.
Wow, that's crazy. Like, I've never heard of that before. As a woman, the Book of Esther is like one of the, because
Right.
when you start
Yeah.
hanging out, like I haven't been a Christian all that long, but when you start hanging out like with Christians or going to Bible study, the women will gravitate towards things in the Bible that speaks to them. So the Book of Esther has been like a huge staple in like women's Bible studies, like, and that lady, they had this teaching. I think they probably still do, but it was called precept upon precept, where you could get like this whole Bible study teaching where they give you all the markers and everything, and the chapters on blank papers. You don't have to mark up your Bible, and you literally mark through the Bible. Like, you'll color if it's a specific he and it's referring to somebody, you'll mark that in a color. So as you go through, you can really see who they're talking about, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? And there was this study on the Book of Esther, and it was so amazing. I probably still have it somewhere. All the crazy stuff that they pulled out of that applies to Christians in your life, and it applies to other
There's
parts of
so
the
much to
Bible.
it. There's like so many like beautiful like biblical lessons that correspond with other parts of scripture, and it's just there's so much to the Book of Esther. I mean, people should just go read the book. I recommend reading it in the King James version, but get Esther, get the Bible, and read it, because God is everywhere in the Book of Esther, from like them putting on sackcloth and ashes and fasting and praying for deliverance as God's people, to Esther getting favor before the king, and all the foreshadowing of Christ that's in that. There's so much like you said, God turning everything to the good, or working everything to the good of those who love him, and who are called according to his purpose. Right.
Yeah,
So
Esther had to be super brave too, because she wasn't allowed to go in front of the king's throne, right? She wasn't allowed to do that unless she was invited, which all portrays to things, to come.
yeah.
But she received mercy when she did it, because it was sort of an emergency, right? And um yeah, so there's just like that blows my mind that people would say something like
I
that.
mean,
That's
if
just
you're a
crazy.
believer in the Spirit, like you've been like born again and you've got the Holy Spirit, how are you going to deny the Book of Esther? I don't understand that.
People
But
do really weird stuff.
yeah, we're finding out more and more. But so basically it comes down to, if they're saying that because the word God isn't mentioned in this portion of scripture, that it's not authoritative. But again, God isn't. It's kind of like a trite argument. It's like a small. It's like it. You know what I mean. It's not really, doesn't matter, because God Himself is present in the book. Remember, like that. There was a vision one of the prophets got about. God isn't in the thunderstorm. He's in the whisper, right? He's
Well, that's what's so cool about that book. That is the point of it.
Mm.
Like,
That's the
that
whole
is
Book
like,
of Esther. It's one of the most beautiful, like meaningful books of the Bible. And now you've got, something, like we talked about, Tucker had that demon encounter when suddenly he kind of started saying crazy stuff like
oh
this.
my gosh.
So,
I
well,
keep
I had that
forgetting
video.
about that.
I have that video I was gonna. There's like so much that
I haven't actually
I'm
seen him
planning to
say
be
that.
here
I just
all
heard
night.
people say it. You should play that. Um, but what I'm going to say, a final thing about the Esther thing, is that um before I was saved, before, I was radically saved, so it was a sort of a wild experience. But before I was saved, God was working in my life behind the scenes, and his name was never mentioned. I never mentioned his name in the
Right.
story of my life up until that point, right? But after I got saved and I looked back, I could see all the things that he was doing behind the scenes. And that is why the Book of Esther is so powerful and amazing to Christians.
Yeah, and people even got saved. It says that people converted to becoming Jews at that time. And of course, the Jews were God's people at that time. They were in the old covenant. They were, chosen of God. Of course, now I believe, I think people on my channel know, I believe that you have to have Jesus Christ as your savior in order to, be the elect of God, the chosen of God, right? And become God's people. Formerly, we're at enmity with God without Christ, but in him we have peace through Christ with God, right? So, but at the time when the Book of Esther was written, the Jews, the Israelites, the people of Esther were the people of God. And so this whole story is about the deliverance of God's people who would then bring forth Christ, right? So you can't attack. This is why I kind of came out of, like my hiatus or vacation from streaming or whatever, because I'm focusing on my family more and work and just life and seeing how many crazy things are happening in the world. Because now it came into my domain with attacking a cherished biblical book that that we all love and is a part of Scripture.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's answer one more thing about the Book of Esther, and then I will also play like a few funny videos. I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy. Actually, let me play this for you right now. It's kind of funny, actually. Let me grab it here. I'm like slow at night. It's like night. It's like 8:50 where I am. So I'm just kind of chilling and not wanting to be on the computer, but let me find the right one. So this guy, have you heard of Ami? I'm trying to remember what his full name is. Let me open it up.
Simply saying that the Jewish...
Let me find this guy's name. Do you know who this is, Megan?
Yeah, he's a comedian. Yeah, he's so
It's
hilarious.
Emmy Kozak,
Yeah.
right?
He's probably Jewish.
He is Jewish. He's actually a Jewish pro-Zionist. So just so you
He's
know,
hilarious.
yeah, no, he is very funny. So I just thought, let's just play this and kind of reset a little bit, and then we'll come back and watch. Just make one more point about the Book of Esther and watch a few other crazy Tucker Carlson videos.
people have a right to a state in their ancestral homeland. It's that simple. What is a Jew? You don't know? I don't know what that means. Like, what are Jewish people? What does that even mean? You don't know who the Jewish people are? I've seen episodes of Seinfeld. I've watched Seinfeld a lot, actually. I know that there were Jewish people involved in making that show, but how do we know they were Jewish? It seems we're going down a rabbit hole. Did Jerry Seinfeld take a DNA test? How do we know where he's from? I'm sorry, it's because I'm an American and we're not thriving.
Oh,
okay. And so when you...
I just love that, because he's always like, as an American, as a Christian, it's just
he's so good at getting his speech pattern down, which is him and Candace Owens have. There's this other guy who does Candace Owens, and they literally are basically almost the same, because they're using this cult, this speech pattern that cult leaders use. You know what I'm saying?
So
And
it's like
so
going
the
for, like, the
speech,
New Age.
yeah, the speech pattern that they're using is very similar, and it's weird how it's something I've been watching because I'm
I
really
hadn't thought
interested in
about,
that.
there is a specific speech pattern. I just don't know if that's just native to how Tucker Carlson speaks.
I don't
It
think
does
so. He
seem,
never talked like that before.
you're right. It does seem kind of like contrived, like purposeful, intentional, very intentional, It's almost like that, like the New Age, like in the 1800s, like
Yeah,
speaking on reality.
it's almost like a trance, like, the way that their cadence goes up and down, and the weird way where they emphasize words and stuff,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I hadn't thought of that angle. But what I love about this guy too, it's funny, is that like he has his cackle down in his hair, and it's like it's
I
perfect,
know.
He's like so funny. But let's watch the rest of this, then we'll come back.
You say Jewish, I don't really know what that means. But I'm confused. Boom, 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 boom. It just seems like you're playing a game, Tucker. Ooh. What is that about? Tucker, I think this is important to note, that Israel and the IDF, They go to great lengths to protect civilian life, even more than the U.S. military does. I have to stop you. I have to stop you just because I'm an American, and I'm getting so angry. Did you just say that Israel is better than my country? It's just an observational fact. I take offense to that. That's shameful. I am not speaking out against our country. I'm stating an observational fact. By the way, nothing against Israel. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I remember when I came here, I visited here many times. I remember when I came here, the agriculture was beautiful. It was better than in my country.
By the way, just in case people don't know, this is supposed to be the Mike Huckabee and Tucker Carlson interview.
Wait a minute. You just came at me because I compared Israel and the U.S., and you made it seem as if I said Israel was better than the U.S. Okay. And you tried to condemn me for that. And now you just said that when you came to Israel, you liked the agriculture better than the U.S. So are you saying Israel is better than the U.S.? You don't even recognize your own incoherence. I'm sorry. I have to hold you to this because I hate mass murder. I hate mass murder. I hate it. I really hate it. It's one of my least favorite things, actually. And so, I mean, are you for mass murder? Is that what you're saying? Of course not. A puppy died in Alabama last week. Are you for that? No, I like puppies. Right. You had somebody on your program, Tony Aguilar, who claimed that he witnessed a Palestinian child who was killed by the IDF. And that was completely not true. Okay. Because that boy that he was referring to is very much alive. I don't know if that's true, by the way. I don't know if that's true at all. How do we know he wasn't?
Oh man.
Okay, so this is a huge problem that I see on social media all the time, is that there are so many lies spread everywhere. Like the entire X is like basically I've been bookmarking stuff so I can make a whole show about everything you see on X is like a lie. So
Even on X, I haven't been on X lately, but
literally everything is a lie. Like nothing, it's all just propaganda. And a lot of it has to do with well, not all of it, but a large portion of it has to do with this Palestinian conflict, which I don't want to get into, but I'm just saying, like, they are making things up, and this is true because I looked into this. This guy that they're talking about did make up like this whole story that wasn't true, and then he's been going on podcasts spreading it around and stuff. So yeah.
Anyway, I mean, how many cans of worms can we open at once, but yeah, let's go back to one thing about Esther, and then we'll come back to Amy Kozak maybe another time towards the end or something. I'd figure you'd probably heard of him. Have you seen that video before?
Not that one, but I've seen videos he's done. He's hilarious.
Yeah, it's really funny. But the other thing, I just want to end one thing on Esther before we get into the demon video of his. And then he had this whole big thing too about basically, like, he was so offended at President Trump for supposedly insulting Islam and like this whole thing. Did you see that with Tucker today or recently, like the last day?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's like a lot we could go over.
It's fine. Like, yeah, we should go over it all because it's just he's so bizarre, and I have my own theories on all of that, but
Right. And I have like a question from someone. What are your thoughts on the question that's coming up a lot today? Are we commanded to support Israel? Like, that's something Megan and I covered really in our last, not fully, but we touched on it because it's such a big topic that you can't just, do it even in 3 hours, but we touched on that. Megan is going to publish that on her channel. So you guys go to her channel and subscribe also if you're liking what you're hearing. But that's such a big one because it gets into in Abraham, who is the seed is Christ. The Galatians says that he didn't say to
I would
seeds,
say to this question, this is sort of a logical fallacy, because what do you mean by support? You know what I'm saying? Like,
we don't unconditionally support everything Israel does.
Yeah,
right?
like, but
Israel
Israel does not need me to support it. You know what I mean? That's sort of like when
Right.
the gay community was like, you have to be our, what were they called? Where you were an ally. You're like, you have to be an ally
Well,
of the gay
it's
community and you have to
interesting.
stand up for them. And I'm like, these are grown men. I don't need to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. Well, it's
um,
almost like you said, like it's always the Jews and Zionism, whether you're Zionist or anti-Zionist, is linked to the Jews. Like it is a Jewish movement. So it comes down to that, and it's like we tend to focus in and single out the Jews, but we don't say like kind of like what Megan was saying, like, do you support America? Like, is there like a big movement where we're like, do you
yeah,
support
is there a
Spain?
movement where I can support China? Do I need to support China? Where, is there a place to sign up? Can I support Kenya? Like who's going to be on the committee of supporting Kenya? I just think it's like a weird thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am
But
I supposed to be
obviously,
sending them money? Like what am I supposed to be doing, right?
right. Well,
So I
and a lot of Christian, like there's like the far right John Hagee, I mean, far hyper Zionist side of John Hagee, not far right, but hyper Zionist, um, where they do want you to like send money to rebuild the third temple, like
right.
stuff like
Yeah, like,
that. Like
yeah, but I'm just
there's
saying like
different
the Bible's not
variants
the
of that.
art God's not the art author of confusion. So I think like all that's pretty confusing. Like I don't know why we would have to like
Well,
I'm
it
not
goes
for
back
sure.
to that verse about if you bless Abraham, you will be blessed, and if you curse Abraham, but then that's what gets into who's the seed of Christ. Like they might be asking from that perspective too. It's a loaded question, which is what took us so many hours to talk about it last
I
time.
know, but like what does that mean by support? Like we're commanded to support. Okay, so what does that mean? Like I have to what do I have to do? I'm a homeschooling mother living in my house. Like what does Israel need me to do for them, right? Like you
Right.
know what I'm
They
saying? I
don't need
just
our support, I
like
guess.
like
Well, they need
the
America.
Bible's not going to command me to do something so ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
just
Well, are they also
they're a country, they're a very powerful nation. They don't need me to sit around and support them. You know what I mean? I'm not against them, but I'm just saying, like, that's sort of how I felt about the whole you have to support the gay community stuff too. You know what I mean? Like,
right?
um, so I
Yeah, like
just,
I said, you come at things with a very unique facet and perspective, Megan, which is why I like having you on and talking to you about it. I think people also, they're talking about like should we support Israel politically as an ally of the US? Like things it's such like there's so many different ways to understand that
but
question.
like that has nothing to do with me or you. Who, who our government allies with and who they don't has nothing to do with what we think. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let me finish my final point on the Book of Esther, and then we'll go to like maybe the Tucker Demon or the Tucker Islam video. We can got a couple to pick from, but my final point, and excuse me if I feel like I'm losing my voice a little bit. I haven't done a live stream for like 10 years, it feels like. So but basically Tucker Carlson said in that clip he that the Book of Esther was a genocide of 75,000 Persians. But in fact, Haman wasn't even a Persian. I had like the verses pulled up. I don't know how much, we want to go into like all the specific verses, but in short, I think to keep
You should
things
pull
kind of,
them up. I think it's
I
really
mean, there's
interesting.
there's so many. I mean, you could go through like um Esther 3, and
Well,
how it all began.
Haman was okay. So basically, like the story is that Haman got upset because he was really pompous and all this stuff, and Malachi the Jew just didn't bow down to him or whatever. And then he got really like butthurt about that, and so he plotted this whole thing to have all the Jews be murdered and killed and attacked. And so he tricked the king into putting out a decree And once the king puts out a decree, they can't really take it back. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Like once the king says something, it can't be taken back. So then Esther she had to get a bunch of things put in place through the help of God behind the scenes to get a new decree made so that the Jews could defend themselves without getting arrested and all that stuff, so that they wouldn't just be like massacred.
Well, it was
And
self-defense basically, because Haman,
right.
who was an Agagite, by the way, he wasn't a Jew, and the Agagites were
Wasn't a
descended.
Persian.
He wasn't I'm sorry, Persian. He wasn't a Persian or a Jew, but he was an Agagite and was an Amalekite. The Agagites were descendants of the Amalekites, and so this was basically, he was emblematic of God's people's enemy. I mean, the enemies of God were like the Amalekites and the Egyptians and others, Canaanites, Philistines, right? So it was those people that were spread among maybe 100 and I think it's 127 provinces of Persia, of ancient Persia, at the time of, it was King
Oh, that's
Ahasuerus.
true because okay, that I didn't even think about that because this was a Persia was an empire, right? So
Yeah,
everybody in their empire wasn't all just Persian. So I
yeah,
didn't even think about that.
it wasn't a mass, like, so, and sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit, but Tucker Carlson basically frames this question as genocide of 75,000 Persians is what the Book of Esther is about. That's literally what he said in that clip, that we just watched. That the Jews genocided. It's almost like the Free Palestine, Israel's genociding all the Palestinians narrative, which we got more into again in our previous discussion. It's kind of a prequel to this discussion. But it's wrong. Like, Tucker Carlson, basically everything he says about the Book of Esther is wrong. Like, they weren't Persians, they were the Amalekites, they were the enemies of God. They had set out to destroy the Jews as an entire nation and people. You just read like Esther 7, Esther 3. If you just read Esther 3, Esther 7, 8, and 9, that's pretty much will tell you the gist of the story. Read the whole Book of Esther, it'd be better. But and so through King Ahasuerus, she was given favor with the king in order to allow the Jewish people to defend themselves from their enemies, right? Which were the Amalekites and all these different provinces. I'm sure there are some Persians in there too, Babylonians in there, different people from those 127 provinces of Persia. So it wasn't like, he's framing it completely wrong. It was self-defense. It was a war, basically, and it was defensive
It
on the
just
part of.
shows you too that even back then, like for like people were just like, "Oh, cool, we get to kill Jews." Like the decree comes out.
Yeah, like they had a
You know what I mean?
decree: you can kill the Jews. It's like what? It's like, and that's sort of the repeating narrative. And again, it's like it's not popular to be anti-Zionist now. It's really weird. I'm almost like, oh man, I hope like I don't lose like people listening, because
No, no,
it's like,
it's not popular to be Zionist.
well, both. I mean, both, because it's
Oh.
such a polarizing issue.
Well, you said it's not popular to be anti-Zionist.
Yeah. No, yeah,
It seems like
it's
it
not
is very popular to be
becoming
anti-Zionist.
more, it's increasing, you're right. It's more popular to be anti-Zionist right now. That's what I was trying to.
I just don't even like those terms. Like I'm
Why do
like
we have to
outside.
frame it that,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm like outside of those terms. Like why do I have to put unless we are going to create, I'm a Chinanist, I'm a Japaneseist, you know what I mean?
well, it's
Uh
it's it's so crazy though, because it does come down to like every ideological divide like centers around whether Israel should exist. It's like it's like tantamount to like every world problem that we have right now. Like even Uganda just announced that they're willing to send 1 million troops to Iran, or to Israel. I'm sorry, to Israel, to defend Israel against Iran or against Hezbollah, or different places like that. It's such a global question. It's what divides like history and time and everything else. in a way.
Right, but
It's
like
a spiritual question.
I just don't get it. Like it's not a logical argument because Israel does exist. So they are there. There's whole populations. They have a military. They have all this stuff. So I don't know why debating whether they should exist or not even exists because they do exist. Like
They do
they're
exist, but so the other side would argue that it's a continuing, like, it's not over, it's a continuing genocide right now, is how they see it. But I mean, there's counter arguments, in other words. But
Well,
I tend
I'm
to,
not saying like I'm not even like bringing up the Palestinian question. I'm just saying like in general, like they exist in that space.
they are a nation. They are a recognized
So,
nation.
and they're recognized by international law as a
Right.
nation. So I don't understand why there would even be a topic that they shouldn't exist. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because there's no way that they're not. Do you know how hard it is? You know, people are all up in arms about Donald Trump saying about the I'm gonna wipe out an entire civilization overnight or something. And it's like that doesn't happen. You cannot just
Those are
wipe people
blood.
out. It is
Yeah.
extremely hard. That's why Russia is still fighting. That's why when we went into Afghanistan, we were there for 20 years and there's still Afghans there, still living. You know what I mean? So this idea that like so do you see what I'm saying? Like it's illogical to even be like, "Oh, I don't think they should exist. I'm anti-Zionist. Oh, I'm Zionist. I think they should exist." They exist. There's nothing,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
it's like what you talked about, though, that's like the law of conquest that you talked about. Like there is that also, like the Palestinians have been conquested. What were your thoughts on that? You were talking
oh,
about,
okay.
like,
So most nations exist because of the right of conquest. Like America is the United States is a nation that exists because of the conquest of this land and turning it into what we have now, right? And so that exists for all nations and it's recognized. And so they did that. They're there. They exist. You know what I mean? So that's why I believe that I just don't that you just saying I don't know why we have to put a qualifier on it, you know?
right.
Like they're just there. They already exist. Like that's like going and saying, like, imagine if people one day woke up and said, you know what? I really think New Jersey shouldn't exist
Well,
anymore.
people don't, some
Um,
people don't
like
want
I'm anti New Jersey existing. And
it,
so
right.
so now what are we gonna do? So then
Well,
and
you
then
had
there's
a
people
good,
that go, I'm for New Jersey. And you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, I
you
don't
had
know.
a good point, um, also about if Israel didn't exist, because there are people that like don't want it, like they would be willing to like systematically like get rid of Israel, like dismantle their government, their systems, their nation. But then you asked a good question, like where would they all go? Like
Oh
where would
yeah, because it's like, okay, so you guys really dislike Jews, right? Okay, well then, so you want them to all come into your countries? Because they already think they have problems with them in their country. So now you want more of them in your country?
yeah. And someone's
Unless we're,
saying,
I mean, what is the, so, and no world leaders are going to allow
so
any of this to happen. Like you and me talking about whether they should exist or not isn't going to do anything. They have the backing of world leaders that are very powerful. Like Russia would never let that happen to Israel. They have very strong ties to Israel. Um, China, I don't know how they would feel, but like most people, most countries, they don't are not down with just completely wiping out a whole group of people. It looks really bad on the world stage, then it messes up geopolitical relations with trade and things that like countries will work for years and years and years diplomatically to get to one point where they can start having inroads with something they've been planning, right? So if you just go start acting like a crazy person, you know what I mean? That ruins that with people you might have been making deals with for years. So it's just a silly, do you see what I'm saying? It's just
well,
silly.
it's just, but they have so there's it's such a complex topic that people have so many different reasons why, but it's just we'll have to come back to that. We'll have to come back to that, Megan. That's just like it's like the never-ending discussion because you could talk about Zionism, anti-Zionism forever, pretty much, right? Someone said something earlier. I just wanted to highlight this. Donald Trump's faith healer, who was a much maligned prosperity preacher, just saying. I don't fully understand,
Oh, that's
Paula
Paula
White.
White.
Yeah, but I don't understand, like, what? Okay, so Paula White, like, I haven't looked into her that much. I know she's probably like the Joel Osteen type, maybe in that realm, but what has she actually said in terms of the gospel? Like, does anyone know? I haven't looked into her
Uh,
specific talk.
I don't think she mentions it very much.
She doesn't mention the gospel. I have a bad
She
image of her overall, but but everyone does, right? Like a lot of people do.
Well, she's really weird. She's one of those lady. Well, first of all,
Yeah,
why
she's a
she shouldn't be
woman.
a preacher anyway. First of all,
Right,
she's a lady, okay?
right.
And second of all, she gets up there and she does like the habadadala and like I could see this and she
So
starts
she speaks
banging
in
stuff and
tongues. They're apostolic movement or something, right?
yeah, she starts screaming and she's like,
Right.
I
But so
prophesied
I'm not
like
like, sitting here listening to Paula White. Like
oh,
I
and then
could care
she'll be
less.
like, if you don't write that $100,000 check right now, you're not
Okay.
gonna,
And then like seed prosperity, seed of faith kind of stuff.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, not really a fan, right? But to me, like that has nothing to do with President Trump as our political leader, as the president. I mean, sure, would I prefer him to be around someone with sound doctrine? Yes, of course, but that's just not realistic in our world today. I hope we can
Look,
get there one day.
I don't get any of the stuff that Donald Trump does. You know what I mean? There, for all we know, there could be a reason why he has to have Paula White around. Because if he doesn't have Paula White around, then this person won't, go along with whatever he's. You know what I'm saying?
I
There's
heard, and I don't know if this is true, but I know she's very pro-Zionist, so people don't like that about her too, from the anti-Zionist side. But I heard that maybe she helped get him saved or something, or she prayed with him, and I don't know if Trump is saved, I think a lot of people think he's probably not, but then I've heard him, like, praise Jesus and say Jesus is, like, the only one. Like, I've heard him say that, like, literally. So I think at best, Trump could be a
yeah,
baby
but then he
Christian.
says things like, "I don't know if I'm going to heaven."
Yeah, he doesn't understand the full depth of, like, the gospel necessarily, so is he saved in, like, a childlike faith kind of way, and he's a complete babe in Christ? I think at best that would be the case, and he's just very busy doing his job as president right now. I'm actually pretty pro MAGA myself, um, but
But
to me,
my
like,
point, what I'm trying to say is that we have no idea why he does the things he does, like the people he puts in positions or the people that he endorses, because politics isn't dirty, twisty, nothing is ever what it seems. So behind the scenes, there could be reasons for all that we see out here that we have no idea nothing about. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it might be like, if you don't endorse me, I'm not going to get all these people to vote on your thing that you want voted on, right? There, all that kind of stuff goes on behind the background, and you have to make deals with all these people, and they build up what's called political capital. So it's like, oh, I did this for you, now you have to do this for me. And that's what they do all throughout their careers, is build up this political capital that they can cash in when they need it. And that's how it works behind the scenes. So a lot of times we might be like, why are they doing this? And we don't know
you
what's
never
going
know.
on.
We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I have to address, Fuzzy Balls here. Uh, Jimmy Carter was the last president who attended church weekly. Yeah, but Jimmy Carter was, like, man, literally the worst president before Biden. I think Biden took that place. But Jimmy Carter was a disaster for, at least for America. I remember the gas lines in the 70s. During his time, he was a failure and a weakling on Iran and the Iran hostage Contra situation. I guess he was really into peanuts, but I don't think he was a great president in any way. And so this is what comes up for me. It's like I didn't, like, vote for Trump to be my pastor or, like, my spiritual guide or my leader. So if he's surrounding himself with some, like, people with like questionable doctrine, I'm just glad at least he's pro-Christian, and he's not against the church. He's sort of a Cyrus, like a King Cyrus kind of a feeling in a way with him, maybe. So I don't really care, like, okay, I don't love that Paula White's there, but like Megan said, there could be all kinds of reasons for that. Obviously, she's pro-Israel. I think it's good to have Israel as an ally. I'm not like Tucker Carlson where I'm anti-Israel, and he says he's not anti-Israel, but he is, right? I don't know. I mean, I'm not pro-Israel in the sense of, I believe everything they do is right.
Well,
Or
I wouldn't say that Tucker thinks they shouldn't exist. I've never heard him say
probably
that.
not. I haven't heard him say that.
So I think what he's trying to say, well, there's a bunch of stuff he's trying to say. One, he's appealing to far right, and by far right, I guess what I'll inform your audience. What I mean by far right is just anybody that's on the line, right? So a political line that is to the right of your standard establishment Republican is considered far right, because now you're moving farther, you're farther than them to the right. Okay, so this encompasses many, many, many groups, right? And people. But so what he's trying to do is he's appealing to the far right with some of his rhetoric, certain people on the far right, where they have been making
alt-right, yeah.
no, not the alt-right.
You don't
Just
think
the
it's
far,
appealing to them?
just the far right. Okay, because the alt-right would be narrowing it down more. So I'm not trying to narrow it down. I'm just saying, like, people on the far right. Hold on, I'll be right back.
All right, Megan's got to take care of family too as we're streaming. So while she's doing that,
Okay, I think they went away.
oh, you're good? Okay.
Yeah, so so what I'm trying to say is that on the far right, there have been topics that are being raised even way before all this started blowing up, okay? And they were like pretty reasonable topics, such as why is it allowed that Israel can have an ethno-state and that's fine, and nobody calls them names, calls them Nazis, calls them all this stuff, right? But if England, for example, wants to have an ethno-state for Englishmen, then we're called, all these horrible names. We're called, we're against multiculturalism. We're racist.
Yeah,
We're white
it goes too
supremacists.
far on like so many different sides. I mean, people just go too far on a lot of these issues.
Right. But like these are real topics that are happening with people, and some of them even with Jewish people, respectably. And so Tucker Carlson is latching on to some of these talking points on the far right. And then also
real quick, Megan, because I want to define I think we define the far right just a little differently, because like I think we're both like on the right, like we're conservative, we're on the right,
Yeah, so far right just means that you're farther to the right, somewhere on the line. So you could, so farther than Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, your standard establishment Republican.
Well, I don't think Rubio's a standard establishment Republican, though.
He is.
I don't know.
He would be considered establishment.
I guess, but I'm really liking what he's been doing.
I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm not saying anyone's bad. Okay. I'm saying like on the political line, you have your establishment normies that are sort of like to the right of the center. And then in the center, you have libertarians. Then they go farther right from there, and you have establishment right. Then you keep going farther along that line right. Okay. So the far right is just one term that encompasses a huge group of people on the far right of the establishment Republicans, so righter to them. Now, then you can start breaking that down into the dissident right, the alternative right. You know what I'm saying? Like there's other terms, but the far right just means you're farther on the right than your normal establishment Republican.
Right. And then from there further to the right, you have the far extreme right, which I don't want to get into. I know we talked about last time, that gets to like actual fascism.
So fascism, but I believe that so me and you differ from that, because I believe fascism is a leftist ideology, so it would actually be like part of the far left.
Well, so for me, I see far left as far authoritarian, and they sort of they sort of meet up at the same point. Like, have you heard the analogy
Well,
of
the far left is totalitarian, and the far what the Nazi thing that you were talking about is authoritarian. So there are several different definitions for
totalitarian,
the
authoritarian? That's right.
yeah. So there's different things, right? But
Have you heard of
just in
the U? It's like a horseshoe analogy
yeah,
of that.
I know that they're saying stuff like that. I don't necessarily agree with that. Um,
Okay,
I think that
I
they
find
do
that
make
interesting.
I do think they make some valid points on that I wouldn't necessarily say is wrong, but I don't agree with it completely. And the reason why, like, I could see why people would think that. Um, if they're not familiar with the far right, they would see things like that. And certainly some groups can be like that. You know what I mean?
Well, so where
But
do you put like actual white supremacists then? People who are like actual Nazis. You put them
like
on the far right.
neo-Nazis, uh,
Like someone today who just outright will say, I hate black people, or I hate the Jews. Like they're just not ashamed about,
well, who
you should
like
like
well, first
actual.
of all, isn't like that's not like you're allowed to hate people in America. So
Oh yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't have the right to. I'm just saying, where do
but
you
if just
classify
because
that?
you hate like a black people or something, that doesn't mean that you have what is this person's ideology? Like I would have to know their political ideology to put them on
See
a
where they
line.
come. Okay, because
Because there could be moderate left people who hate black people, like a black person, right? There could,
okay,
so
I see.
that doesn't explain very much to me. If you're talking about
So
neo-Nazis, like
what do you think Hitler was then? Was he
uh
on the far left? Because I know he was
he
a
was
socialist nationalist, it's in the name, but was he
he
actually on the far left?
yeah, he was far left because that's a socialist fascism. It comes from socialism. So they were the Socialist Workers
Man, that's
Party.
not what my leftist buddies are telling me. They're like, the far right is, you know what I'm saying? Like traditionally, like they think the far right is like,
Yeah, because that's the brainwashing, that's the propaganda. So the Nazis their ideology is essentially like when you dig down into it, it's a leftist ideology, right? Where they want the state to control the corporations and have complete
well, so
control
you
over
think
everything.
someone, and I don't want to get too much into Nick Fuentes because we could go on like 20 different rabbit holes now. But
Oh no,
is it
what I
possible
was
that
saying about Tucker Carlson was just that he's using certain talking points to appeal to certain groups on the far right. And I'm not saying like Nazis, I'm just saying people on the right that are farther right than Ted Cruz and
okay.
that are having conversations and
Oh,
have
that
been
reminds me. That reminds me. It was the establishment. So the reason why I objected to establishment Republican is that it has a bad connotation, right?
well, that's just what I don't think it's supposed to be a bad um connotation. That's just like
You're
what
not. You
people are.
actually. Okay.
That's
You're
just the
not
term
using it
people
that
are
way,
calling it nowadays. So
right?
rather than saying neocon like we used to, neocons have like a bunch of them actually went back to being leftists. Ironically, like Bill Kristol, the godfather of neocon,
Is he a
has become
leftist
a
now?
leftist again because he came
Oh,
from the left.
he
Um,
looks like he would.
yeah, so rather than saying like neocon, because now the establishment sort of makes up people with several different worldviews and ideology nowadays, but they're just, you know what I mean? Like they're just the establishment GOP, right? Like
But I don't see. That's the thing. I think MAGA isn't that. I think that's like even like
no,
I think
MAGA is a group of people that encompasses many.
like
That MAGA is like how
but don't
I'm
you
sure.
think Rubio is more like I don't. I just don't. I feel
No,
like
Rubio has been a
he has been
established
established.
GOP person, and he
Yeah, I mean,
started
in
in
that
Florida.
sense,
Yeah,
yeah,
like he's not like some outsider that just showed up and is like,
right,
radical or anything. He's
right.
and it's
I
not
mean,
bad.
very
Like
few are.
I like Rubio. I'm not like against him or anything.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to define people politically so we could make sense of something, right?
It's
And
so
I'm
hard to
the type of person where I don't really dislike anybody. I'm like, I like to listen to everybody and see what everyone is saying, because quite often you will be misrepresenting them. And once you get to know the person or understand them, they're not as bad as they seem to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
So Megan, I'm gonna play you Tucker about Islam. Do you want to see this?
yeah.
This is crazy because to let you know what it's about, this is Tucker Carlson being played on a Muslim channel, okay, because of the comments that he said. So let's look at this, and we'll springboard to this for a minute.
Christianity.
It's not on the screen.
This is the new Sadaqah Jariyah in town on the Day of Judgment.
Oh, it's
The
not.
first
Ashwin.
thing
Yeah, it's not
we
on the
will be
screen.
asked about is
I can see it on the screen. Can you guys see it in the chat? Can anyone see this?
our prayer for just £100.
Who do you think you are? No president should mock Islam.
that.
That's not your job. To send out a tweet with the F word on Easter morning,
Oh, I
promising
see.
the murder of civilians, and then say,
Okay, I see, guys. Hang on.
praise.
Can you see that now, Megan?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that, guys. So this is Muslim on a Muslim show. This is Tucker Carlson being
What do you
played.
mean by Muslim show? Is this like
So
just
this
a
is called, like,
TV station?
It's called like the Muslim Mum, and I'm sorry for even playing any part of their stupid advertisement. So please ignore it. It's like a YouTube channel, so I don't want to promote this.
Oh,
channel,
okay. It's a YouTube channel.
But
Okay.
the reason why I'm even sharing this is to show that, along with like being played on Iran state media, Tucker Carlson is like on like loop on Iranian state media sometimes because of the crazy things that he says against Israel. The IRGC in Iran place him on their state-controlled media outlets, like on their
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
there's like certain like there's the media there is completely controlled. And now here we have a Muslim channel promoting him being offended about Islam. So jumping out of Esther for a minute, because I think we covered that pretty extensively. Although again, guys, go back and read the Book of Esther. But here's this video from, and I'll skip some of it. I don't want to show their ads.
Who do you think you are? No president should mock Islam. That's not your job. To send out a tweet with the F word on Easter morning, promising the murder of civilians, and then saying praise be to Allah, this is a mockery not just of Islam, it's a mockery of Christianity.
This is the new Sadaqah Jariyah in town on the Day of Judgment.
Okay, so
the
this
first
guy-
thing
this
we
is
will
like-
be asked about is
This is like their commercial now. So I don't play a lot of it, but you can see this is like a woman in a hijab. They're playing, Tucker Carlson's outrage at President Trump over mocking Islam in like his Truth Social posts or on Facebook or
our
something.
prayer for just £100. You
Okay, don't give them money, guys. Let me forward this ad.
Video to support the channel. In an ironic turn of events, longtime Donald Trump supporter Tucker Carlson went off on Trump for a recent tweet he put out threatening to bomb power plants in
I mean, look at this woman, Megan, like fully covered up like that.
This is terrifying. Like,
Scary.
I couldn't sit here and watch. Like, I'd be like, but
Why
I guess
did
for
she
them
even-
it's normal. I guess.
Why
Like,
does she choose to do this? I don't understand. mean-
well, people do really weird stuff. You
It's
know?
like, well-
the people join cults and do weird stuff. I mean,
I'm not
humans
trying to
are-
be like offensive. I mean, completely. Like, I'm only trying to be half offensive, but like, I want to respect like people, like like the person, whoever it is. Like, we love everybody, and we want to preach the gospel to everyone. Even the Muslim, the Jew, everybody. But it's like this is a symbol now of oppression. Again, being myself from Iran, born there, U.S. citizen. I have like personal views on this where I'm
Well,
just
are
like,
these
I see
people
stuff like this and I'm
Iran?
like, ah, man. No, they're
Are
not even,
these
they're not
people
even.
Iranian? Because there's a lot of Muslim countries that do this type of stuff, and not everyone in the country does. Because, right, there's like more religious Muslims that do the full thing and whatever, but not all Muslims do that. So it's
Well, it's
sort of a
different. Like I have like family that's Muslim who are like regular like Muslims, like they're nice. I have like friends like that that are, that are just
right.
normal.
Well, we as Christians have like extreme people uh in our religion as well. Like, like I'm thinking of like what was that couple that like trained people to like beat their kids with the pipes? What was their name? Train Up
Which
Your Child. Like
which ones?
they wrote this book called Train Up Your Child back in like the 70s. They were really famous
Oh,
preachers
no, I
or
haven't heard of that.
um anyway, they would do crazy extreme stuff. Then we have the Mormons that do extreme stuff. Then we have there are like groups of dudes that like think that they're supposed to be ultra controlling of their wife and family, and so then they don't let their daughters like date or and they're saving their virginity for like the guy they pick out for them, and it's called like the
Is this
daughter.
like a Christian cult thing?
This is in America. They're just,
Right, but
yeah.
it's like a Christian cult type of a thing, or
They're not cults. They're just like they're not meeting anywhere. They just have like these extreme
what are they
ideology
called
like
again? I hadn't heard of that.
the daughter something, the
Okay,
daughter something.
I have to look
Um
into that.
do
But
you know who would
they don't like go around killing people like the extremist Muslim like
Oh
Hezbollah.
no, I'm not saying like that. I'm just saying like this group of Muslims that wear these hijabs and are more extremists in their way of interpreting their scriptures. We have people like that too, is all I'm saying. They're not, it's not as
Megan,
many of them, but
I want to deal with this fuzzy balls guy too in a minute, but let me play a little bit more of this and we'll come back to fuzzy balls and also part of the video because he's like crashing out in the comments. I don't know if you can you see the comments?
I can if I look.
Okay. Oh, let's play a little bit more of this, but I get the point you're making. There are different even Christian extremes but yeah, for me it's like I mean those aren't like real Christians too. A lot of them are like just weird stuff, but with the IRGC and like all this stuff, it's like a whole nother level, with what's going on with all of that. But the point being that Tucker is being used on these Muslim channels and Iranian state media because of his comments against the president. Let's watch a little more of it.
Iran, whilst also mocking the religion of Islam. Let's take a look.
Who do you think you are? You're tweeting out the F word on Easter morning? You'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah.
Okay, Megan, what do you think of this statement that Trump makes? I want to get to that, and I want to deal with a comment from Fuzzy Balls about where was it? About Trump. It all ties in. We'll come back to that because I got to deal with this guy crashing out here. I don't even know if he's still here, but he thinks this wasn't on Tucker's.
Well, I
Well,
think just
anyway,
at the beginning, he probably figured it out, like because at the beginning it didn't look like it. It just said Tucker's show at the bottom, but then, so anyway, so what I think about this post is that, I don't really think I doubt I don't even think he writes his own post, to be honest with you.
that one
I
kind of
think
sounds like him, though. I think that one's
I
legit.
know, but it's not that hard for a young staffer to figure out how to sound like Donald Trump.
Maybe.
Uh,
But this is on, so what from what I understand, on Truth, it's him. He often dictates it. I've seen like there's like this video of it where he'll dictate to like his like aide or someone sitting next to him and they type it out for him on Truth. And then they'll do like a version of it or do different things for X or Facebook or whatever. But this one
um,
sounds like him because He's trolling. He is trolling that whole situation.
Yeah, like,
The war.
so this whole thing right here, like, people got really upset with it, I guess because it was Easter Sunday or whatever.
Yeah.
But this everything that the president says, you have to take with a grain of salt when we're at war, because there are things going on that they're trying to get to happen, and they have to confuse the enemy and say all kinds of weird stuff. So that's sort of how I feel about it in general, you know. People
Yeah, I mean, you
cuss
have
all
to
the
take.
time
I,
on Easter
I mean,
Sunday,
am
and I
I
don't.
like happy that Trump cussed on Easter, especially? I don't think he was thinking about that it's Easter. I mean, he knew it was Easter. I'm not saying he didn't, but I think in context of what he's saying, he's in the middle of a war. And it's really easy to focus in on like I mean, I'll admit sometimes I cuss. I hope I didn't cuss on Easter. Um, I don't think I did, but it's like sometimes people do. I'm not saying it's good, but there's this whole another strain within like even like Christians that I know where people will get so offended at a word versus the greater atrocity of what's actually happening in that situation. What are your thoughts on that? And I know we're not supposed to have like corrupt communication proceeding out of our mouth and stuff like that. Are you there, Megan?
Sorry, I was sorry. So my thoughts on that is that I know we're not supposed to have corrupt things out, but I didn't do that. Like, I didn't make that tweet and cuss on Easter Sunday, right?
Right.
I can
Yeah.
only control myself. I can't, go around getting upset about every little thing everyone does.
Yeah. And I'm sorry for anyone who might gotten offended to even share that, but we're trying to get to like a bigger point here. And it's that there are bigger things going on. He's trolling when it
He's
comes
not
to like,
trolling. He's okay. So there's this
well, he's
tactic
trolling
that
the Persians and
Uses a
saying
lot,
praise
where
to Allah.
well, no, what he's doing, what his tactic that he's doing is that he's trying to look like he's crazy and he's lost his mind, so that the enemy is like, oh my gosh, like maybe he will
Right. He's
like
doing that too.
do
Yeah.
something crazy. And so, like, that's why it's like escalating and escalating to looking more and more unhinged, because he wants them to think he's like losing it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like the
It's
art of
called the
war.
madman tactic in war.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's so many reasons why he's doing that. I think that's one reason. I think he is by saying praise Allah, he is mocking those people in Iran, the IRGC members,
Yeah, he is doing that, but then also there would be like, oh my gosh, like he's crazy. He's like losing it. He's saying praise Allah on Easter Sunday. You know what
He's
I
not
mean?
being
Like,
serious. He is not praising Allah. You know what I mean? Really quick, Megan, someone just put breaking news, no agreement made with Iran. That's interesting. I'm not watching right now because we're live streaming, but I would be very curious if that's the case. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case. But yeah, there's a big part of where
okay,
like,
so that's like, we should get into that, because that's what I was earlier when I was trying to explain what was going on with Tucker, is that even seeing that JD Vance is part of those talks tells you something. That means something. Okay, because they are trying to stain the establishment GOP with Israel, because they see that the people are, it's like a huge topic and people are upset about Israel. So they're using Israel as a scapegoat to smear the establishment GOP, so that they can then take over from them in the future, this new group that comprises also JD Vance. And
yeah. Well, you're
so
opening another whole huge thread.
yeah, so
We're making a lot of-
that's why JD Vance has been like really like, oh, like not
People
saying
don't
too
trust
much
JD
either
Vance.
way on the Israeli and Iran and US conflict. And then now he's going over there trying to get the peace talks so that if he does, he will be seen as the one who like fixed it. You know what I mean?
Yes. And and you know what? Let me show this because it does look like that comment was true. Let me see if I can share this here. All right. So this is, at least according to the BBC, as of just a little while ago, updated 1 minute ago, US and Iran failed to reach agreement after historic peace talks in Pakistan, Vance says. So very interesting
Well,
development. I was not
agreements
planning to talk about this,
agreements take a long time though, right? I mean, like this isn't something that just happens easily. Like diplomatic talks take a while.
well, it apparently, I mean, it doesn't look good for an agreement, which I don't know. We've been, so a lot of like the people I know have been very upset that there were even talks, because people in Iran that I know, and like Persian Americans I know, and then like a lot of people I know that are following it, they don't want, we want, like, people want the regime to end, basically.
I know, but what we want isn't necessarily what's going to happen. And
Right.
there isn't just these talks going on. China is using diplomatic processes. Russia is using diplomatic processes. All the leaders are throwing all their diplomats at this. We might not be seeing it. They're only going to show us what they want us to see. But I can guarantee you that China and Russia also want this to come to an end that
Yeah.
is, something good. So they're
It's
doing stuff too behind the scenes, trying to get
well,
this worked out.
yeah. I don't know if anyone if you watch 2CTV.
I'll
That's
be right back.
okay. I don't know if you guys watch 2CTV. That's like a good source for a lot of what's going on as far as in Iran and the war and everything. But while Megan is back, or is doing her thing, let me continue playing a little bit more of that here.
And it's in the Book of Esther.
Okay, we don't want that one.
Of Iran. Okay. Praise be to Allah. Religion.
All right, so that thing about Trump, I'll just kind of cover a little bit while till Megan comes back. Megan, if you're listening, just let me know when you're back. But so this whole praise be to Allah thing, I do think he was trolling and mocking, and it is that madman kind of thing too. But let's continue a little bit from there. Obviously, Trump is not praising Allah.
Of Iran. Okay. If you seek a religious war, that's a good idea. But by the way, no decent person mocks other people's religions.
All right. I know Megan's going to comment on this when she's back, so I won't say too much, but basically, even Tucker sees it as he's mocking. He's not literally praising Allah, of course. He knows that Allah is the Shiites' God, and also the Sunnis, but in this context, it's the Shias. And he's basically mocking, trolling, and he didn't go through with what he had.
We have a problem with the theology.
And he talks about how it's a religious war, etc. Maybe I'll wait for Megan because I know she's.
I am back.
Oh, you're back now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I just kind of I was started to play one more video, and we might start winding it down soon on maybe just like a little bit of this and maybe the demon one of Tucker's, but yeah, I wanted to wait for you to get back. So let me play.
Yeah, I want to see
back
that
to it.
demon one because I've actually never saw it. I've just heard people talk about it. So
Yeah, let's go to that one then. And then we've been going almost 2 hours, so we'll probably Tucker in after that. So this is a conversation.
Think you were attacked by a demon.
Can Can you see it, Megan?
Yes.
So this is a conversation he had with Megan Kelly. I'm actually gonna, after she starts, I'll just forward it a little bit to the relevant part. Then we can talk about this.
You think you were attacked by a demon. And I have to tell you, like, a lot of people mock this, they roll their eyes, but I look at, like, what happened to Charlie, what happened in the wake of Charlie, what happened at the Ascension School in Minneapolis, where that man went in there and shot a bunch of little children praying at their church school.
All right, I want to just forward to the relevant part here. It starts at about 2 minutes where he talks about getting scratched by a demon in his bed. So I don't know how many of you have seen this. I'm sure you've seen this, Megan, right?
No, I haven't seen
Oh,
it.
you haven't actually seen this? Okay, so
Yeah,
it's
I've only heard people talk about it.
okay, so let's just dissect this a little bit, and then we'll call it a night after that because we've been going a while. But let's start right about here.
The one leads to the other. I had this profound experience with God, like profound and beautiful and unexpected. And then I go to bed with my wife and 4 dogs who sleep in the bed. My wife said 4 children. My dogs are hunting dogs. All 5 of them wake up like that. Like they, they
Wait, what does his wife having 4 children have anything to do with it? Like, why did he throw that in there?
I don't know.
He's like, I have 4 dogs. My wife has had 4 children. Like, what does that mean?
Let's see.
Rewind it a little bit.
Doesn't even, yeah. Let's go. It's like right at the 2 o'clock, the 2-minute mark.
Like profound and beautiful and unexpected. And then I go to bed with my wife and 4 dogs who sleep in the bed. My wife said 4 children. My dogs are hunting dogs.
Oh, because
all 5 of them wake up.
Because they all sleep in his bed. Do you think he was scratched by a
he
dog?
said my wife has had 4 children. Has his wife had
I'm
4
gonna rewind
kids?
that.
Does he have 4
Yeah,
children?
he has 4 kids, yeah. But he says 4 dogs. Doesn't he say they all sleep in his bed or something?
Yeah, he said I have 4 dogs. My wife has had 4 children,
What?
and my dogs are
Does he
hunting
have 8
dogs.
I don't think he's saying he has 8 kids, does he?
No, he's like, why is he throwing in how many kids his
All right,
wife has had?
Let's back up a little bit and let's listen from there a little bit more and see if it makes sense.
From my brother's like, I think that's from God. Like, there's no way you can. It's like, wow, that's kind of wild. So then I get home. We have this huge dinner party, which we always have dinner parties, and I forget about it. And I'm telling you this because they're twinned. The one leads to the other. I had this profound experience with God, like profound and beautiful and unexpected. And then I go to bed with my wife and 4 dogs who sleep in the bed. My wife said,
Okay, so he and his 4 dogs, right? And they all sleep in the bed.
Yeah.
Okay, so remember that because there's 4 dogs in the bed.
4 children. My dogs are hunting dogs.
What about the children? What?
My wife has had 4 children. My dogs are hunting
with
dogs.
my wife and 4 dogs who sleep in the bed. My wife said 4 children. My dogs are hunting dogs.
Why does he say my wife said? Oh, because there are 4 dogs for his 4 children, probably.
No, that's not what he's saying.
I don't know why he would be throwing that in.
He's adding in, like, that's what I mean when he talks. He adds in all this filler stuff that doesn't make any sense. Like, my wife has had 4 children. My dogs are hunting dogs. It's like he's trying to. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it kind of is if you think about it. Who knows what connections he's making in his in his mind with that cackle that he has. But let's listen a little more and see.
All 5 of them wake up like that. Like they are. We have no home invaders in my house. I wake up at 2:30 in the morning. I check and I couldn't breathe at all. My throat was closed. It wasn't like I was apnea or was strong as I couldn't breathe. So I get up. I stand in the doorway of our bedroom, and I'm like, wow, I'm dying.
So you've heard how, there's like demonic encounters where you kind of get paralyzed. It's like the alien thing.
Yeah, sleep
Way.
paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. Is he kind of talking about that?
I don't know, because he says he's up in the doorway.
Afterwards, though, right? Let's rewind that a little bit and see.
They are. We have no home invaders in my house. I wake up at 2:30 in the morning. I check and I couldn't breathe at all. My throat was closed. It wasn't like I was apnea or was strong as I couldn't breathe.
Oh, so he couldn't breathe. You know what I've heard? I've read this somewhere that people who couldn't breathe, it was a sign of demonic possession or oppression. So he might have really had a demon encounter is the thing. He might have. But it does get weirder though, because he starts talking about scratches. Have you heard that, where people who report getting oppressed by demons, sometimes they can't breathe?
Well, I don't know about that, but I do know I have heard of people who start messing around with stuff, and it actually happened to my sister. When you start messing around with like magic and things you shouldn't be messing around with, weird stuff will start happening to you in the night. And my sister had started doing this kind of stuff, and then she comes to me because she has a problem because her boyfriend she was with at the time started getting poked in the middle of the night, and he had bruises all over him,
Oh, so
like
he had
finger.
physical manifestations.
Right, but, like, he didn't believe in any of this stuff, so he was just like, "I don't know what's going on," but he's like, "I feel like I keep getting poked or whatever," and my sister was, like, freaked out, right, so, I had to help her out with that, but, so I have
Yeah.
heard about that before.
Because I've
Now
I've like seen like things like that before I was saved, and then even after I was saved, there are times when I've seen things that didn't look that look demonic, let's just say. I mean, you've known a lot of like different Christians that have like reported stuff like that, right?
I've seen some weird stuff too, so before I was saved, um I wish I could remember these people's names because I'm sure you guys would know who they were, but there were this prominent Christian evangelist, prosperity, weird type people in the Midwest that would show up on the news commercials. Remember when we just had channels on TV?
Yeah, like
And
our 13
they,
channels.
yeah, they would show up, late at night or whatever on the news as a commercial. And so I'd always kind of seen them throughout my life, right? You know, just I didn't know who they were, but like they were always on the TV and stuff. And so one day I was in my apartment and I was probably like 18, 19, something like that. And uh I hear the commercial come on, so I'm hearing it in the background, and I'm in the kitchen, and there was this open island that went into where the TV was, and I was getting something underneath the shelf, and when I popped back up and I looked at the TV, those two people, it was like the wife with really blonde hair, and then the husband. Their faces look like demons for like a split couple of seconds, and then they went back to like normal, but it like I fell backwards and dropped the stuff I was holding, like the
Wait,
glass
so
I was holding.
what made you fall backwards? What do you mean you
Because
fell
when I looked up, I saw like demons.
Oh, okay. Did it startle you and you felt
Yeah,
backwards?
it startled me. Like I
It
was like,
wasn't like
and
force.
I
Because you
jumped.
saw them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I've
was
seen.
really
I mean, I've
creepy.
seen like weird stuff throughout my many years as a Christian. Uh, I don't know, how long has it been? Like 30 something years, I think. I don't remember. It's been like I was saved when I was 21. So yeah, it's been like 33 years. Um, so yeah, I'm not keeping, after like 30 years, 25 years is kind of like how long. It's just been a long time, right? But I'd seen a lot of stuff like, there are things that manifest in the spirit, that like the spiritual realm, but I don't want to get all like into all of that, on this channel. Um, but just to say there is like a real component to it. So it could be that he actually did encounter a demon. I don't know if it was like the dogs, because he talks about being scratched in a moment, which we should play that. But it was an actual, he claims an actual physical manifestation of it, which I've never had a physical manifestation of it, if that makes sense. Like I've seen things, but like they can't like penetrate, at least they haven't. God hasn't allowed them to penetrate beyond that. I guess with Job they did though, right, Megan? So because he had like physical, like
Yeah.
struck by the devil,
Yeah.
right? So let me play this a little bit, and then let me know if you want me to stop at any point.
So I get up, I stand in the doorway of our bedroom, and I'm like, wow, I'm dying. I can feel myself starting to gray out. And then I started walking in the backyard, and then it slowly came back. Like my throat kind of opened up a little bit. I was like really weirded out. I walk back in, and my wife wakes up, She goes, what is going on? I said, I don't know. I can't breathe. I feel better now. And all of a sudden, I had this horrible pain underneath my arms, like on the side of my chest, like bad. I thought I'd been like ripped with a knife or something. It just was very intense. So I go into the bathroom, I flip on the light, and I have claw marks on both sides, on right and left side on my ribs, and they're bleeding. And they're literally claw marks, 4 on either side. I put my fingers in them, don't fit my fingers, and I sleep on my side. So how could? And by the way,
So what do you think about that? Like there's a physical manifestation of
That's
that demon.
crazy. Like I don't know like if that's true, like I would be extremely concerned if I were him, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. What is why is that being allowed? Like, why did that happen to him of all people? Like God has to allow that, right? For something like that to occur. Like
Oh,
demons can't
I
just,
don't know how everything works.
I mean, as far as like, I think as far as like demons, and I'm not like the expert demonologist or something, I just read the Bible, but like as far as I understand, like demons can't possess Christians, but they can like oppress you or like do bad, like, and try to influence you, things like that. Although it's really tricky because you don't want to get into like, like a lot of like hyper charismatic churches, it's like that becomes the focus of the ministry or like, all the
Right.
but I think there's a real place for where, I think if like if a demon literally attacked Tucker Carlson to the point where his side was scratched with like claw marks and blood,
Both sides,
both sides.
Ashwin.
So if that occurred, if he is a believer, I don't know if Tucker Carlson, I mean, you think Tucker Carlson's a believer? I don't know.
Well, he says that he is. He says he's a Christian, so
I mean, a lot of people say that, but
yeah.
if he is a Christian, he might be. I don't know. Like, I honestly just don't know. I hope he is. I was praying for him. I used to be a huge fan of Tucker Carlson. I used to watch like all of his long form interviews and everything, and like every guest he had on. But then after this demon encounter, he kind of like a lot of
Well,
people turned on
when
him.
was this demon encounter? Do
This
we know
was
when
right
this
before he went, what everyone says, he went crazy,
I know,
and
but
he started
like
saying like crazy stuff.
how do
And
we know
being
that?
played by
Like
like
when
Iran.
was this episode of Megyn
This
Kelly?
well, I was, like, watching it in real time. It was, like, a few weeks to, like, a month before he sort of what a lot of people would see as he turned,
No,
you
he's been
know?
being crazy for way longer than a month.
Oh, no, I'm not saying it happened a month ago. I'm saying this
Oh.
demon encounter occurred a month before he went crazy.
Oh, okay. Well,
About
he started going
I
crazy
might be off
like
by, like, a few weeks, but
um he started really turning, I think, like because this has been like a slow burn, right? Because they can't just like immediately come out
well, yeah,
acting like
this
this.
is just when it manifests. Like, this is when, like,
Um,
you see it, like, you know?
yeah. I'm
But
just saying, like, he's been slowly priming his audience for at least a year to get them to this point where he is
probably,
now.
and this could have been from I think it was this year. I think it like the demon thing, or was it late last year?
Was it before or after Charlie Kirk?
It
Because
was
I feel
I think
like
it was
everything changed
after.
after Charlie Kirk, dude. Like, for a lot of people. Like a rip in the space-time continuum like opened up like after Charlie
Yeah. Well, yeah,
was gone.
that was a very impactful, moment, and
Oh yeah, I mean, I was like devastated for like 2 weeks. I could barely think about anything.
okay, this says he publicly disclosed. Okay, this let me share this because this kind of answers it. I'm finding this article here, or it's like just a Google AI overview. So this was. It says Tucker Carlson claimed he was physically attacked and mauled by a demon while sleeping in his bed, leaving him with bleeding claw marks on his ribs and shoulders. He stated this encounter occurred roughly 18 months to his public disclosure, which took place in late October, early November. So that's what I was thinking. It was like late last year. Late last year, October, November, he disclosed it, but it actually occurred 18 months prior to
Well,
that. So
that's
it's like
2024. So
2 years.
so the encounter took place in
Wow, that was
2023.
wow.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, so it's been a long time.
Okay.
So that was he hadn't gone fully crazy then at that point.
No, I'm saying I think he was starting to turn,
He was
because I've
starting
been
to turn
paying
at
I've
that
been
time.
paying attention to
When do
him
you
for a
think he
while,
started? Because I liked
and
him like not that long ago.
I know people weren't noticing it. Like my friend at Paramount Tactical, shout out to him. I've been on his live before, but he also, just like you, really liked Tucker, and he didn't understand what was happening until the comment about the hummus comment at Charlie's funeral. And so he didn't realize that, like, all, like, now looking back, he's thinking about the stuff that he saw Tucker say. And he's like, oh, okay. But like people just weren't noticing it because of the way he was framing things. But I noticed it because, like I said, he is borrowing stuff from other people and he's not explaining it very well. That's how I know he doesn't believe it. And to appeal to a certain audience, and to also turn the audience he has into those ideas, because I don't know, there's like some kind of agenda here to do such a thing. So
It's all very strange. That's why I wanted to get like your take on Tucker. I
I
know it's
know.
gonna be like we talked about it in our prequel discussion to
Right, but we
this.
didn't really get into it too much because that topic was about Zionism, but we did talk about it slightly. But it is an interesting thing, and
So
I also think that the people around him are interesting. So you have Candace Owens parroting the
right.
same stuff. She's connected to British, elite connections, and then you have Joe Kent, who's connected to the intelligence agency. And I also, in my opinion, believe Tucker is as well. And then you have, do you see what I'm saying? Like, you've got, like, there
I
are a
mean,
bunch
yeah,
of people.
they have a whole movement. Weren't you saying last time there's a whole movement of like they're kind of networking?
Well, I don't know if they're all in on the same movement. Like, I don't know if Candace Owens would be, but Tucker specifically, he is part of this group um that they call the small tech, and then there's like finance people and stuff like that. But you have David Sachs, um Peter Thiel, and then
Yeah,
all the group that surrounds them, like the All In podcast,
they're
for
like the
example.
technocrats or like Peter Thiel, isn't he a technocrat? And
Well, how do you define technocrat?
well, I mean, he's just into like I'm not saying he's like ruling as a technocratic, power or
I know, but
something.
I just realized that there's people people view technocrat in several different ways. So like that's why I'm asking how you
Well,
view
so
it.
he's the former CEO of PayPal, right? I mean, technocrat, it's like some would say like even Elon Musk to some degree, or like
Okay, so a technocrat means ruled by experts. That's what it means. So I'm just wondering, like, if you're using the actual definition or um what?
no, I'm using more the social definition, like technocracy and like being ruled by like tech by all the tech that's coming and all the stuff that eventually leads to
Okay,
the
yeah,
market
that's
system.
so
Like all
okay,
the
so
AI, like the AI movement. Like
right.
did one of maybe I'm mixing up their names. Who was it that
No,
didn't
Pete,
Peter
you're
Thiel
talking about
invest?
the right person.
And
But
he invested a lot with
technocratic literally means ruled by experts. So when people see that word, like in regular, so
in its
um,
classical definition. Yeah.
for example, Donald Trump is setting up a technocratic board and thing
Oh,
to
so
oversee Palestine, which just means that those are experts in the field of whatever they're
the
supposed to
board
be
of
doing.
peace. Right.
on the board. So people are getting it confused with the conspiracy definition and the actual real world definition.
I was using it more in the conspiracy definition there, but yeah, you're right in that in the technical, like classical definition, it's ruled by experts. And Peter Thiel, he's behind like Open AI, isn't he? He
Right.
co-founded
So there's small
co-founded
tech. They have
Palantir, Open AI with
yes.
ChatGPT,
Yeah.
right?
So exactly. So aside from the conspiracy world definition of it, Peter Thiel and his group of small tech people in Silicon Valley, so they're not the really big ones. They're what's called smaller tech because they don't have as big of a share in it in Silicon Valley. Now they have all these hedge funds behind them and everything. JD Vance worked for Thiel's hedge funds, and David Sachs has put him into a bunch of positions.
Yeah,
They're
David
the ones.
Sachs is the other guy with Trump, and they're all
Yeah,
invested. Who is David Sachs again?
he was in charge of the AI
He was part of the AI investments
board,
too, right?
or yeah, it was called something. It was like the AI board, like or something.
Advisor on science and technology.
Um, but it
But
was
all of
only a
these guys
short.
they've been donating, and I'm just kind of loosely following that aspect of it. But then they invested tons of money into like AI infrastructure, like recently, like last, or promised it at least, or pledged it.
Yeah, AI is a big thing. They have to do it because other countries are doing it too. So like
So,
we can't fall behind on that.
and aren't
You
they working with, or is there like a JD Vance connection
That's
with
what I'm
them?
trying to explain. So they're the ones who have put JD Vance all throughout his entire career. If you follow it, they have put him into every single position and place he's had in finance and in, the private sector, all the way up to the Ohio. He was only there for like a couple. I'll be right there, baby. He was only there for a couple of years. And then, um, so most of the time it doesn't work that way. You don't go to be like a senator in Ohio or work in the legislative branch there for 2 years or less and then become vice president. Like that's crazy. He wasn't even in the you know
Right.
so it just
And what's his connection? I mean, is he just friends with Tucker Carlson, or what's their connection?
no, Tucker Carlson and him are very, very close. And Tucker Carlson is very, very close with Peter Thiel. He actually says he consults Peter Thiel for every serious life decision he makes.
Says that Tucker Carlson?
Yes.
He consults Peter Thiel for every major life decision?
Yes.
He said
Yeah.
that? Like, I've never heard that. He actually
Yeah.
said that, like in his own words.
I'll have to find it.
It's crazy.
I've been trying to make like a bookmark of all this crazy stuff that I've seen around this group. But
So
this
how does this
group's
tie in?
ideology, like people are constantly going off on Nick Fuentes, who really he was 18 when Donald Trump came out with his platform in 2016 that was like, we're going to arrest Hillary Clinton. We're going to be down with the globalists, you know what I mean? And America first. And that's what he named his show. And he wants to go back to an American first platform. He doesn't see the GOP as doing anything for us. And he thinks that they don't do anything for us because they're more concerned with Israel. So that's where his conflict with Israel comes in.
Okay, so let's turn this back into Israel to at least keep this within the scope of the topic.
So that's what I'm trying to say is this group that is involved with JD Vance and Tucker want to sully the GOP, the establishment GOP with Israel, so that when the time comes, they can come out and say, we're all for Israel. They're only Israel first. They're not really America first. You see what I'm saying? Like, so that they can take over because the MAGA, Donald Trump is going away. He's not going to be president again. That's a power vacuum. So there's a power play going on behind the scenes.
And
between a lot of people, there's lots of factions.
It's going to be between, and are Rubio and JD Vance friends? Because they seem like it at first, but isn't Rubio rising up now as like the contender?
Right, but if they sully him with the Israel thing,
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. That's so you're saying that's their goal is to solve, but is that who it is? Is you think who's gonna go head to head with JD Vance in the primaries?
I
Is it
don't know.
yeah,
Probably several people. There's probably lots of different factions vying for all that right now.
right.
You know, you have Ron DeSantis factions, you have Marco Rubio, you have JD Vance. I don't know what the other people are doing.
So what is
I
okay,
imagine Donald Trump will endorse somebody.
he'll endorse someone. Yeah, but
Yeah.
he might like I would guess that he would let them kind of play it out first in the primaries and the debates, and then he'll endorse the one that he likes or has already picked. But I think he might wait and see. But that's just my guess. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm seeing Rubio rise up as like I'm at least like from the circles that I'm in. Like we're all in like our own little like bubbles. Like my son kind of taught me this. I'm like I thought like I mean it's obvious we all know it, but like we're all sort of in our own algorithm bubbles.
Well,
But he's always
Rubio
reminded.
is rising up. People are really satisfied with what Rubio's been
That's
doing.
what I'm saying.
So,
Yeah, he's
um,
like really
but
rising up.
if they're successful at like continuing to go down this anti-Israel road and get everybody so upset with Israel, well,
Yeah,
Marco Rubio takes a lot of money from the Jewish donors and has his entire career because he's from Florida, and that's sort of like
right.
natural. But a lot of people don't know how politics work. So he has a lot of backing and connections that can be tied to Israel or Jews, and then they can use that to sully him. Do you see what
Yeah,
I'm
that's an
saying?
interesting theory. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. I would just wonder if they're genuinely are they are like they seem like they're genuinely are anti-Israel though. Like at least like anti-Zionist, anti-Israel.
Well, no, because some of these dudes are Jewish. Like David Sachs is Jewish, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, and there are those Jewish anti-Zionists.
They're just jumping on like this
They're just using it
anti-Zionist
as a
thing
power
was
grab.
already happening in the conspiracy world. It was getting pushed all around. The Epstein files made it a million times worse. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
so and then for whatever reason, our politicians have to constantly go over there and kiss the wall. So then everybody sees that, you know what I mean? And could
right.
spread that around. So over a
Well,
year,
that I
they've
see
been,
as politics. Like Trump did that even, you know.
yeah, but people don't like that. Like
Right.
people
Well,
don't
that's
like
that's the John Hagee hyper Zionist kind of thing
it
that I
had
was.
nothing to do with John Hagee. Like it was Bibi Netanyahu makes them come over. Every time they come over, all the politicians have to stand there while he does the weird ritual thing with the
Okay.
paper. And even Marco Rubio looked like he really didn't want to do it, but they have to. Then they have to go over there and then they kiss the wall and they take all these pictures of it to put all over the place. Why are you doing this? Like it just, do you see what I'm saying? It's like this creepy, weird ritual they make all of our politicians do when they go over there. So then people start pointing that out and they're
So
like,
you
why
don't
aren't you
think it's
going?
just, and I know that's a compelling argument, like I don't disagree, but do you think it's just sort of the politics of it too, though? They're just trying to, they'll get the votes or it'll appeal
I
to a certain segment of
I don't
voters
know.
or
Like I don't like. Well, why do we have vote in Israel? Like we don't have voters in Israel.
no, but yeah, that's true. I mean, we have a lot of pro-Israel people here.
So, but
So
there
are you
then
going
people
with the
start pointing
argument?
out, why aren't you going to the Christian churches or the places where Jesus went? If you're supposed to be Christians, why are you going over to there and doing the praying on the wall, right?
Yeah, that's
So then
interesting.
people,
Yeah.
so they got people have been getting worked up about this stuff for over a year. And then what Tucker Carlson and his faction is doing is literally just jumping on that.
So do you think I mean, it just seems like there's got to be more to like what his actual agenda is. Like I'm just trying to figure out with Tucker, like what does he actually believe? Like what is he actually it can't be just a pure power grab, can it?
Yeah, I think it
Just
could
for the
be.
sake of power? I mean,
Well,
what's like his agenda? Like what
they
is
don't want okay. I'm sure that you, being a conservative, like have seen that we put the people in power. Right now, they have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They've barely done anything. Like, they won't pass the SAVE Act. There are a bunch of stuff we wanted them to do that they refused to do. Now they're introducing, literally Republicans are introducing bills that are basically amnesty bills to like allow most of the people that are here illegally to stay here illegally. They're introducing this stuff right now. So people who are conservative, for years and years, this keeps happening to us, where we put people in and they don't really actually ever get very much done, and they let the Democrats, when they get in, run roughshod and do whatever they want and get all their stuff passed, right? And so it's a huge problem that people have been noticing for a while, and now people are just sick of it. And so you had this giant MAGA coalition that just rose up because Trump said he was going to end the swamp. We were going to actually get people in that would do
Well,
stuff
yeah,
for
but I mean,
America.
there's all like kinds of promises politicians make, and then they get into like the Oval Office, and then they get like the real scoop on like what's going on.
Right. But so Tucker and his friends want to get rid of the establishment right that they see as not doing anything. They want to use actual power when they get in to actually change stuff. There's this whole mindset around the BAT movement where it's like, or centered around the Bronze Age pervert guy, that like this Bronze Age mentality where vitality and power, and we should be doing things. You know what I mean? Like, we can just do stuff, right? Is one
But
of their
what if they want to
slogans.
change? What do they actually want to do?
Um, pour money into infrastructure into the United States, or bridges, and make
Okay,
rail.
so they want to do like domestic, because I feel like JD Vance would be good domestically, potentially, but there's something I don't trust about him. But
Yeah, I'm not saying either one is better or not. I'm just saying, like, this is what they're doing. Like, you know what I mean?
that's their goal. That's their agenda.
Then Nick
So do you
Fuentes'
think they really
agenda.
are America first? Like, do you think Tucker is actually America first?
I don't know. I mean,
I'm just trying to
he
figure out Tucker in this
he
equation
was a neocon his entire
his
life.
full life. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's what's tricky about the whole thing.
I just can't figure out what happened with Tucker. That's the thing. And that's what
I
a
don't
lot
think Candace Owens has any political leanings. I think she's literally just an agent for
it's just like crazy.
Yeah, an agent. If she does have powerful people behind her, which I believe she does through her husband, their mission is to just cause chaos, because the Europeans don't really like having Trump and this MAGA people in, because they get the raw end of the deal, because then we're like, well, we're not going to pay for your defense anymore and all this stuff. And so they don't like us. Ukraine doesn't like us, so they're up to stuff. They don't like having strong MAGA Republicans in office either, because then we don't give them the money that they want for their country. So then so there's all these factions that are behind people. Now, Nick Fuentes is separate from all these other people in my mind. He has always been this way for a pretty long time. He has been saying for a very long time that he doesn't trust Trump anymore, that Trump is being controlled by these other forces. And
I
so
just get such a bad feeling from like all of them, from like Nick Fuentes, from Tucker Carlson,
yeah, I know,
Candace
but
Owens,
what I'm trying, it doesn't matter
all of them.
how you feel about them. I'm saying Nick Fuentes is just completely different, whether he's right or wrong or bad or good. I'm saying he is not just all of a
He's not
sudden
like in a coalition.
Yeah, he's not all of a sudden just popped up acting weird. This has been his message for several years now. And he didn't vote for Trump in the last election because he said he's like, they're going to go to war with Iran. They're going to do this, and this. They won't do the immigration. They won't then what'll happen is they'll lose the midterms, and then it'll be a lame duck presidency, and we won't get a single freaking thing. And so he didn't vote so he hasn't, do you see what I'm saying? So he's like a separate entity outside of these people who have now
followed him a lot because I just get a bad. I understand like some of the things, and like
Well,
even
I'm
like
not saying you have to follow him. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, it's when I look at the landscape of these people who have flipped recently and are acting weird, like Tucker, etc., that they don't really apply to Nick Fuentes, because also a lot of these people are just brand new Catholic
he's always
converts,
been that way.
and he's been raised Catholic, so he doesn't fit the exact pattern that you see with these other people. Yeah, so that's my assessment.
Tucker Catholic now? Is that what it is?
Everyone's they're all
They've
converting
all
to
like, including there was like that one British like comedian kind of guy. Who's that guy we used to watch? Oh man, it's been such a long time. The long hair, and he was kind of like a rock star, like former drug addict. He's like really conservative. Like remember?
JP Sears.
No, he's the comedian. Oh, it's been such a long time since I watched him. Mary,
Yeah, a
you
lot of them, like a lot of these people have the same story arc. They were more leftist,
long.
then they became
It was another leftist that, yeah, they become like MAGA temporarily.
overnight to the right, then they convert to Catholicism because it establishes credibility, like they're traditional, right? And then they will be like
Russell
fine for
Brand. Megan, it was Russell Brand. That's what I was thinking.
he converted to Catholicism.
He became a Catholic also. That's why it made me think of him.
When?
A couple years now, I think.
Oh, I thought he was just a Christian. I didn't know he was Catholic.
I don't know. I mean, he was praying the rosary at some point or something, or
Oh,
like a rosary, but I don't know. Maybe he was just confused as a new Christian. I don't know.
well, he's got to have his shirt always open, whenever he's
funny. I
talking,
used to
so.
really actually like him and watch him, and I probably still, like him. I don't know. I haven't watched him in a long time.
Yeah.
Well, he converted to Christianity and was baptized in the River Thames, April 2024.
Okay, well, maybe he's a real believer.
No, but then it says he has not formally converted to Catholicism.
He has not formally converted to Catholicism?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Maybe he's not a Catholic.
Maybe he's not. Maybe they might have been trying to get him into it, because there's these weird Catholic sects that are, these aren't like normal Catholics. There's like these SPX Catholics, and then there's like this Opus Dei cult, and then there's this crazy, it's called Blue Army sometimes, but then sometimes it's called TP, Tradition Property, property. So it's this let me see if I can look it up. 1 second.
So they're like trying to convert people to Catholicism?
Okay, so it's called TFP, Tradition Family Property. It is a Catholic cult that's been around for a long time that is like really weird and has all these weird ties to all these elite people and
Okay. What are they called?
TFP, or sometimes the Blue Army, and it's called Tradition Family Property. That's what TFP stands for.
Blue Army, the World Apostolate of Fatima. It's a Catholic public international association focused on spreading the message of Our Lady of Fatima.
He has Fatima. That picture Tucker has on the.
Oh, Tucker does?
Remember I said that's so weird that there's Fatima on the back?
My wife is my little helper here in the background, but
yeah, I'm telling you, there's something going on.
Because like last week we were watching Tucker on some video, and we're like looking up to see what crazy stuff he's been saying lately, and there's a picture of like a weird, looked like I guess it was Fatima. I'm just realizing.
No, it said that.
So he might be a part of that. Are you saying he is a part of that, or he's been influenced by them?
I'm saying that like there's this trend that I have noticed where there's these Catholics that come out as very traditional Catholics, where they convert. And then they also like this, when I started looking into it, I found like these cults that were connected to the elite people over in Europe. So there are these aristocrats and like royal bloodline families that are still around from back in the day, and they're all connected to this weird stuff.
Yeah. I just know, I'm sharing the screen here. The Blue Army, known officially as the World Apostolate Fatima, is a Catholic public international association. So they're around. They're an organization to spread the message of Fatima.
Put in the T put in the tradition family property, because that tells you more. So, because this is like almost like
I'd
a,
have to look
how we see Mormons. This is like a really like strict,
defense of
like,
tradition, family, and property. I mean, it sounds good, but I don't know what they believe. I mean,
Well,
defending.
they're saying the Fatima in his studio is
Mhm.
actually a Turkish cigarette brand.
Oh, really? Oh, that's what he has.
Just a sign, I guess.
Let me
It's a
see.
weird coincidence then.
What is it called? The Fatima cigar brand?
Turkish cigarette.
Oh, Turkish cigarettes.
It's like a yellow sign.
Oh, is that what he
Yeah.
has on his wall? Because there's
It's
this
right
video where
behind
he
him. It
has.
looks like this one.
Can you see all this,
Like that
Megan?
one.
yeah.
Looks like
So we're like, what does he
you're
have?
literally right behind him in his studio.
I don't know. Maybe that's like, is that like their way of messaging? I don't want to get all conspiracy
that's a
theory,
Catholic cross, though.
but
Isn't
yeah,
it?
it's like Fatima is like a Catholic thing. Here, am I like the only one who doesn't know what Fatima is in Catholicism?
It's
Do you know,
it's the
Megan?
lady. There was
No.
the sighting of
That's
Mary
right?
in South America at the Fatima.
Sorry, I'm not Catholic,
There
but
was there was a sighting of Mary like back in the
Okay.
day where she was coming and talking to like this little girl,
yeah,
and it's all associated around
the
that, like this.
shepherd children, approved by the Catholic Church in 1930. So it was an apparition of the Virgin Mary.
But she told this little girl like a bunch of crazy stuff, like
And so your mission is to like spread the message of this apparition of Mary. Okay, the message is Mary urged the daily recitation of the Rosary for world peace, an end to World War I, and the conversion of sinners. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I thought I saw Russell Brand saying pray the Rosary. I wonder. Here, I'm going to Russell Brand. So I like him as a personality. I don't know like what he believes and everything. But I remember him doing that, and I thought it says, yeah, I thought I
Okay,
read.
hold on a second. Let me get this because you won't be able to hear me.
And this belligerence, Lord. Our Heavenly Father, show Donald Trump his true identity as the American president that restored nationalism that is inclusive and loving. Heavenly Father, I pray for the leaders of Israel to be restored to their true identity, to accept you, Jesus Christ, as their Messiah and King. For surely, Jesus Christ, you are the Messiah. I pray for you, Keir Starmer, that you will be raised up, that you will be shown that you are clear and pure and that you understand justice and that you will honor your parents. I pray for the people of Palestine and Gaza, that they may be encouraged and restored and protected.
I'm back.
And that in
As soon as you go to open up cheese sticks like in a hurry, they become CDs from the 90s. You know?
Oh, what does Megan?
Cheese, string cheese, those those string cheese
Yeah.
that are wrapped individually. Anytime you like really need to open one quickly, they just become like the CDs from the 90s when you buy them.
Oh,
and you-
yeah. That's funny. Are you eating string cheese?
No, the kids. The
No,
kids.
just kidding. Okay, let me go back and play some of this for you.
in the region, we will find peace among those tribes. Oh Lord, I pray for protection for Iran. I pray for protection for the leaders of China and Russia. I pray for all the people of the world, all of your children, all one family, all included in the covenant.
That's interesting. What do you think about that? It's almost getting a little ecumenical in some ways there.
I don't know what that ecumenical means, but I actually just don't like I don't like the way I sort of see where people like him are coming from, because I actually feel like in our country we have this tendency to just act like everyone is the enemy. Everyone is plotting against us because we're the unipolar, right? We're the world superpower, you know? And so being the world superpower means that we're now constantly paranoid about every other country in the world. And so and I do feel like we do things to undermine countries because we just want them to be weak, you know? And I think that that's I don't know. I don't really like that, but
I mean, that's the politics of
but
that's the politics of
so
this.
when things like what he's saying is because if you're listening to geopolitics and you have for a long time, which I don't know if he does, then you will know that there are all these things that the United States is doing to these other countries, like on their borders and
Oh
stuff.
yeah, he's pretty strong on that. I don't know if have you listened to him before? To
Yeah,
Russ?
not recently, but
Yeah, not
um
recently either for me,
I have
but
my own opinions that I've just acquired from my own research since
yeah, of
probably
course.
like 2010.
Yeah.
Which
He
I
was
guess
just
you're not allowed to
undertaking
have anymore, because now the right is doing all this weird stuff where they're attacking everybody to the right of them. And so
Right.
now they're bringing in like this crazy stuff about this Dugan guy, which none of it is true. Like all that stuff that they're saying about that, like that he's the
Who's
mind of
Dugan?
Putin. His name is Alexander Dugin. He's like
Oh,
this
okay.
weird, eccentric Russian man, which I don't even know if he lives in Russia at the moment, but he wrote some books and he uses this term multipolarity. And so now they think that the term multipolar comes from Dugin. So even if you say something like, "Oh, I think I think we're going into a multipolar world," they're like, oh, you're brainwashed by this Alexander Dugin guy. And I'm like, I've never listened to that guy before in my life.
Is he
Eh,
current? Because this is saying he was a Russian political philosopher who is the leading theorist of Russian neo-Eurasianism. So he wants Russia to expand it to Europe, right?
I don't know what he wants. I've never listened to him before. I just know that the stuff that they're saying about him, like that they're saying he's
Yeah.
Putin's mind. This guy is a lunatic fringe psychopath that nobody on. So he popped up in people on the right interviewed him like in 2017, and then I think Tucker recently interviewed him again for some reason, but he's just a that's like saying that's like in Russia if somebody was to say that Candace Owens is the mind of Donald Trump. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
It just
As like
wouldn't make sense. It's
as
just
propaganda, right? So they're saying this guy's connected to Putin and all this stuff. Putin is not connected to the psycho weird guy, okay? Like
yeah.
it's and so now they're saying like if you say anything about multipolarity or if you're against like the aggression on
Okay,
of
wait.
America.
Multipolarity? I don't you have to define some of these things. So
Well, I've never used it as multipolarity. That's what this stupid guy says. But multipolar is a word that has existed in our lexicon since before World War One, at least,
okay,
that's been
so
written
it's
about.
against US hegemony, basically. Reduces US hegemony
No,
instead
no,
of
no.
like the US being the dominant power or one. That's what this
Okay.
is.
We had multipolar world before the world wars. Okay,
Yes, right.
where the
Yeah,
countries were all sort of similar
exactly.
power. Okay, then we went in after World War II, we went into a bipolar world because we had the Soviet Union and we had the
Right.
United States. Once the
Exactly.
Soviet Union fell in the 90s, we went into a unipolar world. So, but now we have countries rising up again because it's been like
So we're
30
going back to
years. And
multipolarity.
so they're growing their military, they're growing their economy. China and Russia are very close to the same powerhouse,
Right.
right? As far as like power goes.
But we
So
don't want,
just
as Americans, like Tucker would says, an American as a Christian, like we don't want to go away from unipolarity, do we? We don't want the global power to be multipolar, or do we? I don't think we do, right?
I think it would be better. I think it would be better if we weren't the only one going around controlling everything in the world, because it becomes too much. Like, how long can we sustain that? If there were other powers that were able to sustain their areas and we didn't have to worry about that as much, you know what I mean? Like, for example, it doesn't all have to be negative. For example, if there is a famine in, like, say, somewhere in Africa, for example, if you have other countries that are at a level of being able to help, Russia can help provide grain or resources to that country, so it doesn't just all fall on us. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, that
Like,
would be a
now,
positive aspect.
Russia and China are still very much below us as far as economy and
Well, and that's the
military.
question I was going to go to, is who would those, let's say, world policing powers be? It depends on who they are.
You
If
don't
they're
have to
Russia and
have one
China,
person. Why does it have to be one person? Multipolar world existed for the entirety up until the 90s. So America has always been a great and powerful country, even when there were other countries that were doing well. Okay.
well,
So
especially
this
after World
idea that we have to have everybody suffer and not do well in order for America to be great is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, no,
America
I
is
agree.
great,
I mean,
and
we
we will
shouldn't.
always be great, and we will always be a huge influence on the
Right,
world.
right.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
just saying I don't want, like, the CCP in China to, like, rise up to an equal level to us. I'd rather they just, like,
Well,
move
as
on.
long as we keep going at the rate we are and keep doing well for ourselves, then we're still so far ahead of them. We should still be
I don't
fine.
That's the thing. I don't know if we're as far ahead. Like, we are right now ahead of them, but if China and
Well,
Russia,
they don't have, our
that's
military is much stronger than theirs, because we have the potential to move our military around the world, because we have bases everywhere
oh
and
yeah.
we have
Well, we are
military
definitely the
equipment.
They
strongest.
also don't have the
Yeah,
population.
We
we're
have
definitely
military
the
equipment to
extreme.
actually move our forces around the world. The other
Right.
countries, they don't have that. Their military is built up to defend their borders, basically, because they're
Yeah. No, I mean,
scared to death of us.
I have no doubt that we're the global superpower right now, for
Right.
sure.
We will
Yeah. So
continue to be the global superpower.
I hope so, Megan. I
But
just,
multipolarity isn't or multipolar world isn't a bad word. People have talked about it in geopolitical circles for years. And if there are two powers that are still, they're superpowers now. We have two other superpowers in the world. We're the number one superpower, but there's two other superpowers. How are you going to define that if we're not allowed to now use the word polar, which has
yeah,
existed in
but
the
that's
lexicon?
so that's my point though. If it was like more benign countries that were
You're missing my point. My point is, it doesn't matter if you think it's good or bad.
right.
The word multipolar has been used to describe this thing since before World War II
Oh
in
yeah,
literature.
sure.
And now I'm not allowed to say it
Why
without
not?
being identified to this ridiculous dude, Alexander Dugin, who's just using the word. You know what I mean? In his work.
Most people don't know who this Alexander Dugin
Well,
even is.
they do now, because the right is like pushing him as if he, like, the establishment right is pushing this guy, thinking that us people on the far right are all into this Alexander Dugin. And I'm like,
What is it?
I spend a lot of times in far right spaces. No one is talking about him. In fact, now they're making videos making fun of the establishment right for thinking we give a crap about this Alexander Dugin in any way. But this is a psyop being perpetuated by James Lindsay on the far right. So, like I
Interesting.
said, there's a
I've
lot of stuff
never
going on,
I
and we're
feel
not
like
allowed to
this is
have
like,
conversations anymore, because you can't say multipolar. You can't say that you're, would think it would, that you don't think it's right that we just attack countries
are
just
you like on
because.
talking with people on X or something? Because this sounds, I don't think like most people even know what you're talking about.
Well, okay, so they're on X, they're on there's been live streams about it. There's James Lindsay has been making shows about it
Man, okay.
on
I
YouTube.
want Interesting. I'll have to look into that. So you think the mainstream establishment, Republican establishment?
No, I'm saying regular Republicans
Yeah.
are freaking out because of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens doing all this ridiculous stuff and people coming out against Iran and turning on Trump, that
Right.
now they're associating anybody on the far right who's bringing up anything like, you know, like, oh, I don't, like Russell Barron was just saying, like, I don't think we should like attack Russia, you know, and be so
Right.
hostile to them. Now we're like betraying, you know what I'm saying?
I've kind of changed my I know you're a little bit more on the, like, I don't want to say, are you like pro Russia or, but I've like turned a little bit on, because I know there's like a right wing like view of pro Russia, pro Putin, because, or there was at some point, because he's like a masculine leader. He's like riding the bull, and he's not like a wimp like when like Biden was, or just like incompetent. And it's like there's like he has like characteristics as like a man maybe that we can
I
appreciate.
think he's a good leader for his country.
Yeah, I don't know, because I've kind of turned on that,
Well,
because
the country he has a 72 to 80% approval rating. So
but they say it dropped to 67%
it
recently.
didn't. They're just saying that.
And then they're also saying it's probably less than that,
You
because
know,
those
they
polls are.
lie just as much about Putin as they do about Trump, right? So I would
I
be
don't
like,
know. I used to be, I guess I was never like pro Putin per se. Like I wasn't ever like that. There's just certain things I admired about, maybe like, like, okay, we are like putting our troops on in our bases like on their border, like, and wanting Ukraine to join NATO, and like that's like bad, right? Like it's threatening to them, at least from Russia's perspective. That's a threat. And I totally get that. But then I just feel like Putin, he's not gonna stop fighting, or like, it's like it's been like over 4 years.
who cares?
It's been
Like,
like
are you
over
gonna,
four
what are you
years.
gonna say? Like, if US goes into Iran and they're in there for 4 years, what are you gonna say?
If the US, I don't think we'll be in there for 4 years.
I
I
know, but
could
I'm
see
just
this
saying,
thing
like,
going
our
on.
country has done, we were in Afghanistan for 20 years.
That's true.
So why are we
But
like,
it's like millions, or like there's like on like a million or something have died.
yeah,
It's not like in Iraq, I think we lost like 4,000 servicemen or something, which is terrible. And
yeah,
it's
millions died
awful.
when we went to Vietnam, millions died
Yeah.
when we went to South Korea.
Yeah. I don't know. And then I know a lot of Ukrainians like in their area, and they're like they fled Russia or they fled Ukraine because of the war, and it's tricky. I don't know. I feel like Putin had an opportunity to sit down with Trump and actually negotiate and try to negotiate,
He
even
did.
though.
They negotiated in Alaska and then they never did what the negotiations said. The United States just completely ignored it and then
Yeah.
didn't do any of it. So I don't know. I mean, he tried diplomatically for over almost a decade to deal with that situation, and they had the Minsk agreements, the Minsk 1, the Minsk 2. Like, so I feel like Putin is pretty much a very reasonable leader. I mean, he's been in power for a long time. What has Russia really done other than now this war in Ukraine that's been so aggressive to everyone?
Well, I liked that he was at least prompting up like the Eastern Orthodox Church there. Not that I'm like pro East. I'm, like I said, I'm a Baptist, but at least he was like pro Christian, and pro. He seemed to have pro Western values. So like there's things like that that I actually liked about Putin. I still like about Putin. Um, but
I
yeah,
know. I'm
that's
just
another.
saying, like, he's a pretty good leader for his country. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like he's been in there for a while. Like we have a whole record of his
he
his
hasn't done anything crazy to his own people. I mean, but he is a dictator though, right? Like no one else can like be the leader there.
That's not true.
I don't
He's
know.
not a dictator. Like they have elections, they have parties. There's several different parties. Uh they have a federation and they have legislative branches just like we do and stuff like that.
Yeah. But what I didn't like about the Ukraine thing, was giving all of that money like through Biden. Like to me, it was that Biden was in charge and incompetent
And
during
also
that.
the other thing about Russia that people aren't putting together is it is a little more authoritarian than we are here. But the reason why is like literally not that long ago they were communists.
Well,
And
yeah,
when they started getting away from that, when they wanted to get away from that, the communists tried to take over like a bunch of times, and there was that big fight at the like White Castle or whatever that building's called, and a bunch of people died because the communists tried to retake over in the like shortly after Yeltsin was elected. So that's a complicated thing because you had to be really careful if you want to get out of communism. You had to be a little more careful about the parties, right? You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah. Well, and the Soviet Union fell, which weakened all of those different
it's the
regions.
Soviet Union fell, but there were still factions that were communists that had political power inside that country. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And they were trying to retake control. Like after Yeltsin became president, it was a huge thing. Like 200 and something people died. Politicians were killed because they tried to do a takeover, and Yeltsin had to kill them all. And our presidents came out and like praised it, like our world leaders at the time. So so when we think about places like Russia or China and we say, oh, they're so authoritarian or whatever, well, their people are different.
right. It is a
They didn't
different
come,
like value
they didn't
system.
get raised like Americans literally came across the channel in ships to have like freedom, right? These
Yeah,
people never had that. They were peasants living under, um, a
very
monarchy,
different
and then they got taken over
history.
by this horrific communist takeover for like 30
Right.
or 40 years or however long it was. So, you know,
Well, yeah, nothing is simple. Every all of these geopolitical issues are extremely complex, and nuanced, and there's a lot to it.
right.
Like I've said to you before, I would love it if we had trade with Russia. Like I would like to see us make those mineral deals, like for the rare earth minerals and just different trade that we can do with Russia. That's what I'd ultimately like to see, because
Yeah,
that
like
that would
I
be
ultimately think that it's not bad that Russia and China are powerful, but I still think we should be more powerful than them. I think we should be
I
friendly
definitely
to
think
people
that.
because they're very friendly in their diplomatic stuff. And then when we're being really aggressive and mean to people because we have this mind strength set of peace through strength, which is true. But when you're just being a bully and you're not being very nice, that starts making people turn against you. So that's not very good diplomatic either. So we need to be more friendly and nice with our friends and our partners and the people we ally with, and so that they like us more than they like Russia and China.
Right.
And we
Well,
need to keep Russia and China over in their sphere of influence and out of ours, because
right.
even though Putin may not be super aggressive, the guy after him could be, or the guy after Xing. And if we have them allowed to bring all this stuff over to South America, they can put those bombs on shipping containers, right?
Yeah,
So
someone
we
after
need
Xi
to.
Jinping can be a lot worse than he is. Like I don't hate like Xi Jinping or Putin or any of them, and I would trust Russia more, and I'd like to trade with them, like I said. But there is something about China that I just don't trust. Like I feel like if they could like hit us with an EMP and just weaken our infrastructure and take us over, like if they could, I'm not saying they could, I think they would if they had the upper hand. So that's what makes me nervous about China in
I don't
particular.
think that they would. I mean, not like right now. They're just like
I don't think they
they're
could right now, but I think that the time
I
could
don't
come
think they
where
would, even if they could. They make a lot of money off of trading with us. And we would, if we collapsed, a bunch of other countries would collapse too. It would be a geopolitical nightmare, which then their countries would suffer as well. So it's not like a reasonable thing for anybody to do. Like, you know what I'm saying?
right, yeah,
Um,
it's not, and
they're
maybe
also
that's what
they don't
what's
have a whole
back,
lot of
but
like China doesn't have like us who come from British stock who have a history of spreading out and creating empire. China doesn't really do that throughout history. They have a big empire and they're imperialistic, but they don't like want to go out and make colonies. Do you see what I'm saying? That's more of a British and you know
imperialism.
like way of thinking where we
There
want to
was
make
a
colonies
I mean,
all over. We want to spread
yeah.
out our influence all over like that.
For me, it's maybe I don't know. I feel like even if we could, we would take them out. So, I
Yeah,
mean, do
we
you think
would because that's how we are. Like
but you
that's
don't think
how
that
we are.
I think
Like
that's
yes,
how
we
they
would. Of course we would. We want to. That's why we have them
right.
surrounded. That's why they're putting all their money into defending their
I
borders.
think that's pretty much like many nations, though. I think they would, I think we would, I think Russia would, because at the end of the day, as friendly as these leaders can be with one another, there's an entire political system and people that it's in their best interest for us to be out of the way.
I
Yeah.
disagree with that. I don't think it's in their best interest for us to be out of the way because then they would have to deal with the entire world. You know what I'm saying? Like, they would then now be responsible for dealing with the entire world. And I don't think that
Yeah.
they necessarily want that because now
Yeah.
everything that's going wrong, they're going to have to deal with like we do. We created a whole system for dealing with it. I don't necessarily know if
Well,
other
I hope
countries.
you're right for the short term because I don't want those things to happen. But in the long term, I don't know. It could be I am biased. I had these recurring, like, dreams for, like, 12 it was, like, 12 years ago for, like, a year where, China had, like, taken over the US and enslaved all the American people, and it was just something and it was just a dream, so I'm not basing anything on it in that sense, but maybe that's what my gut reaction to it
Well,
is.
that's because there's been a lot of stuff like that put into our milieu, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
throughout
but this
the
was, like,
years.
way
Like
before
you have the video games with the Chinese coming down off helicopters and the Russians too. So it's sort of in our mindset, in our subculture
it's
that
in my
that's what
psyche not to trust China. But maybe that's good. Like, I don't wanna trust China.
I
I
don't
don't
want to
know.
trust
I
anybody
mean
either. I'm just saying, like, well, if you know, it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy if you're constantly messing with them to the point that they can't actually
well, yeah,
survive as a country.
I'm not saying we're not, like, poking the dragon and, I mean, just cutting off, Venezuela, the oil, which hey, I loved what we I don't know. I see these things with Trump, and I'm like, "That was pretty awesome."
Yeah, I was
It's
glad
great
about
to
that as well because like I said, that's our
kidnap
hemisphere.
Maduro. Yeah,
They
right, that
should
is
not
our
be in our
hemisphere.
hemisphere.
But that
We
doesn't
shouldn't have
affect China.
communists in our hemisphere.
But
Like,
that's but, Megan, that cutting off the oil supply in Venezuela, it's actually a move against China because they're an oil partner.
yeah, but that's not going to hurt them that bad to so it's
But then
actually
we
a
also
move
see
against
these
Canada because it hurts Canada more than it hurts China. Um, so so America has the heavy oil reserves that we like to where we can refine heavy
yeah,
oil. So you have like sweet oil and then you have heavy oil, which is really thick crude. And then you have sweet oil, which is light. And it takes different kinds of refineries to make them. Well, because we actually had made all these deals with Venezuela back in the day, we actually put a lot of infrastructure into making these refineries in the South, like in Louisiana, etc., to deal with heavy crude oil. Now, we don't have heavy crude oil here. Okay, so that's the problem. In our country, we don't have it, but we have all these refineries. So then, whenever Venezuela cut us off, we actually started getting all that supply from Canada. Well, now if we have access to that supply again, it's going to hurt Canada more than it hurts anybody else.
right. But they take a
So
little bit of a hit. China will take a little bit of
yeah,
a
but
hit in
they can
Venezuela.
get the oil from Russia.
Well, but
So
then they
they're
also
opening up the Baltic Sea up in that area. Like they're making pipelines and they're because it's warming up there. So they've actually been creating sea lanes up high so that they can't be messed with by the United States anymore when they're moving their oil around. So they've been actually working to create their own infrastructure to avoid the United States' all the problems they put on them throughout the world trying to do stuff. Um, so they will just get the rest of their oil from Russia. So,
yeah, well, I'm not following, like, I'm not, like, following all the oil news or anything.
oh,
Um,
I keep
this
up
is
with all this
you
stuff.
you sound like
Like,
you're keeping up with a lot. I mean, I'm looking at the Strait of Hormuz right now is the big issue because of the
Yeah, so
Iran.
straits are really interesting. So we've had military takeovers of straits all throughout history, the Panama Canal, the Suez Canal, and stuff like that. So it's really interesting to me because I know about the history of military acquisitions of straits. So, but yeah, I mean, it is crazy. It's a crazy situation.
Yeah. Well, I thought they're getting like I'm wondering if China is getting hurt by, the strait because
The
even though they're
strait
getting,
in the Strait of Hormuz is going to affect China way more than
that's
Venezuela
what I'm
for sure.
saying. But that's so he takes a little bit from Venezuela, he takes a lot more from Iran. So all of these moves by Trump
Well,
are
but the but
designed
if
to
but if the strait
hurt
gets
China.
opened up again, all China has to do is just buy the oil in US dollars. So it's not like they're do you see what I'm saying? It's not like they're screwed. They'll never get the oil
Oh
again.
yeah,
They
no,
just
it'll
can't get
open
it.
up. It'll
They
open
just
up.
yeah,
But
they
they're
just can't
saying
get the oil in a different currency, like in yuan. If they're going to come to the strait, they have to buy it in US currency.
you're saying if we take it over, if we take over the strait?
Yeah, so like, okay, you're saying, and everybody is saying that China is going to get cut off from buying its oil from Iran. That is not true. Okay,
No, I
if
don't
we
think they will. I don't think they will.
but what will happen once we control the strait, which is what we're if we're successful with what we're trying to do, they will still be able to get their 20% of oil. They will just
Yeah,
have to buy it in US currency because
which will increase the US petrodollar. It would strengthen
right,
the
it'll be good for us. So like the
right,
way they've been doing it now is they're circumventing having to pay for it in the
right.
petro and US
Well, so
dollar like everyone else does.
these are smart moves from Trump. It's just at what point does China, you know, I just think China's not happy about this. I don't think
They
there's
will
anything
just
they
buy
can do.
the oil in US dollar.
Right.
Like that's all they'll do. Like this,
Yeah. But that's
they're
good for us, and then that would hurt them in the long run. But I
well,
think
it
it's
won't hurt them. They'll still
incremental.
have the oil. They just don't get it in they just don't get to buy it in
Right.
their currency.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
and then
Well,
if
we'll
they
see if
don't want
we
to
get
buy
that
it in their
strait open.
currency, they can just get it
We
from
don't know if
Russia.
we don't know if that strait is, what's gonna happen with that strait yet. I mean, it'll eventually open up, but from what I've been hearing too, it's so backed up right now because only like 5 ships are like going through a day and they have to
Yeah,
pay
I think there
millions
were like
of tolls.
thousands of ships that were they're just regular
Yeah, there's
shipping
just
ships
it's like
and
a
they're stuck
backlog.
over there with
Yeah.
no supplies. Like they're running out of water and stuff and things like
Right,
that. So
and it's a huge backlog of ships that they're saying even if it were to open today, it would take 2 months to recover from the effects of that.
it would take a lot longer than that
Yeah,
because
and that's a yeah,
infrastructure's been
that's a
destroyed.
concern.
Also, like
Right.
the farmers aren't getting their fertilizer that was coming out of there, which is going to affect crops and is going to cause a lot of
It could be
issues.
like a year, like 9 months to
Yes.
like a year, yeah,
So,
so
but
it doesn't
Russia
open
will pick up on the fertilizer thing. So that's why they were easing up on a bunch of sanctions on Russia so that Russia can step up. See, this is why I'm saying it's not bad that Russia has the capability to do things when we need them to. Like if we can't deal with something, they can step up and deal with
Yeah,
it on the
no, I don't
global stage.
disagree with
So
that.
they're stepping up and they're going to help with the because they have a lot of fertilizer in their
Yeah,
country.
it would be in
So
everyone's best interest for all the nations to work together. Like, I know I'm not like polarizing saying Russia bad, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that ultimately there's this power struggle. It would be nice if we could all work together, and we do and we will,
yeah,
but
we should remain the number one
we
superpower
should.
as long
Yeah,
as we continue to do well for ourselves. If we start collapsing and our whole country starts falling apart, then that would be a pretty
right.
but I think that's
I'm
why
just saying,
Trump
like,
is doing some of the stuff he's
wouldn't
doing
it be
because
wouldn't it be better if like Switzerland or someone was the second world power instead of like Russia or
no,
China?
those people are
I'm just
crazy. They're
using
all like
I
liberal
know, maybe that's not
psychopaths.
like the best example. I don't I just kind of randomly picked like a
Like
Western nation. I
Sweden is
just mean like
definitely
if it was like any like I mean, I know Europe's going to hell, like I understand, but like the
Who do
Western
you think is better
ideal.
to deal with people in Asia and
How
the
about like
surrounding
Finland?
countries around China than who do you think is
How about
better?
Japan? would be
But
better.
then a lot of those countries don't like Japan because Japan brutally murdered them all, like in World War II.
Yeah,
You
but
know what
that
I
was a
mean?
long time ago. Japan is like,
But we're
so much
talking
more
about
advanced.
Asian people. They never forget anything. So, like,
I don't know.
they,
I
so
just don't want.
smaller Asian countries might not want to work with Japan.
I would just rather have like a Western valued, second superpower and third
We
superpower.
already have a second and third superpower. They already exist, and that's China. And then the third
I
is
know.
Russia.
Yeah.
So we're the
Yeah, I
number
guess
one
I wish it would
superpower. The
away more.
second one is China. The third is Russia. We already have that. That's already what's
Yeah, you're
happening.
speaking facts. You're speaking facts. Like I'm just saying, I wish it. Like I would prefer if we had different nations. Like I don't want them to rise. I want them to be like way below, because I ultimately don't want Russia and China controlling anything.
I really don't care what they do over
Yeah.
in China or Eastern Europe. Those are their people. Those are their trading partners. Those are like, how does that any of that affect me or my allies in the West or my hemisphere? You know
Well,
what I'm
as long
saying?
as they
Like,
stay in their lane, yeah. I just don't
they
trust
are. They've been staying in their lane. That's what what they've been. This is not recent. Okay, like for years and years, we have had China the second superpower, Russia the third for years. Right? So like they're not doing anything. They're trying to trade with other countries and we don't like that because we think it affects us. So then
Well, yeah, there's a
we
whole
say
trade. It's
yes,
all it's geopolitics. There's a lot that
but
to all these
I don't
equations.
think we should trust them completely. I think we
Yeah,
should remain the number one superpower. And I think we should
I do agree with
make
that.
sure that our hemisphere is really secure, which is what Trump's trying to do with the buying Greenland so he could put the golden dome up.
Right. We do need
And
that golden dome. I'm all
yeah,
for
we need
that.
that golden dome for sure.
Yeah. To
Yeah.
protect us from China and Russia, basically.
Yeah.
You know
And
what I mean?
we need the southern hemisphere shored up and all those countries doing well and trading with us and manufacturing for us so we don't have to rely on China. All
Yeah.
that stuff is good,
Well,
you
hopefully
know?
we'll get Greenland diplomatically. I think they're already working on some kind of deal for that, like the first stages of drafting a
Yeah.
deal to make it
Yeah,
happen.
I want to be able to go there with like would we be able to go there without a passport?
Would who be able to go there? Us to where? I was just reading
To
this comment,
Greenland.
sorry.
If we own
Oh,
Greenland, would we get to go
I
there?
think we can go. Oh, if we owned Greenland, I don't think we're gonna own it. I think they're just
What?
gonna no, I think they're just gonna put in trade agreements, um, between the US and
Whatever. We need to
whoever
take
owns Greenland.
I'm all for taking Greenland. I even want to
I
take
know, but I
Canada.
don't think we'll
Like
need to. I don't think
why
we'll
does
need
the British crown should not have a colony this close to us like this? Right?
yeah.
I don't trust the British. I don't trust the British people more than anyone. They're not just the British, but the
Well,
European Union and all that. They're like
I mean, okay,
globalist,
yeah.
leftist, like psychopaths.
I mean,
You know?
we all know the, Keir Starmer,
Well,
and those
even before him, they've been like all kind of
in the
going downhill.
Muslification of the UK and everything else.
What
Um,
did that comment say about
so yeah,
Steven Anderson?
I wanted to shout out back to Christian apologetics truther Afshin many years ago when I was following Anderson, reference to Stephen Anderson that we've talked about every now and then. I made a video attacking you. I realize now that I was wrong and very immature. I now understand the law of Christ and the love he has for all. Amen, brother. Thank you for that. That was a long time ago, and there were things going on within that group. So a lot of you probably know. People from subscribers from my channel, a lot of them know about it. You know about Steven Anderson, right, Megan?
Yeah.
A little
Yeah,
bit?
like I followed like I liked his sermons and stuff. Like I wasn't super like into him like some people get, but I did like his sermons because he would pull just stuff out that other people might not see. But I definitely didn't agree with everything he said, right? And then I
Yeah.
found out about like then I watched that whole scandal unfold about like the weird stuff going on in his
Accusing
house.
his kids and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Alleged,
and
I guess legally I
there was
have to
more
say
than just that
allegedly,
too,
but
that the
that's
kids were
at
saying a
least
bunch of other
I
stuff,
should
but
say, according to the children's testimony, that he not sexually abused, but like physically abused,
and
um,
his wife.
and his wife.
So he
And
practiced wife discipline.
Yeah, but
And then
before
there was
that,
the allegations of also very odd sexual stuff going on with the not with
that
the
was
kids,
in
but
one
like
of the satellite churches or other new IFB churches. I don't remember. I didn't follow, after a while I just kind of stepped away,
no, this
you
was
know.
him. This was Anderson and his wife. One of the kids came out and said that they were into some weird stuff. Like they had
Yeah.
like whips and like other things just
Yeah.
lying around the house.
Oh,
Like,
with each other. Yes, I did
yeah,
hear
with
that.
each other. Yeah.
But before all of this, yeah, there was a whole big thing with him. And maybe we'll end on Steven Anderson um, this is supposed to be about the Book of Esther, tonight, which we did cover in the first hour or so. So we did cover it. We just kind of kept talking afterwards just to talk. But yeah, with Steven Anderson, he did have a lot of good teaching on grace through faith. And I like some of his end time stuff and the King James Bible, which is the Bible that I read, I believe is completely authoritative, which is what this, stream was about, the Book of Esther.
But
Um,
that's the
the
thing, like
Bible.
there are extremists in our country like that will follow him, and the problem is that with him and like others like him and even others in the manosphere and stuff, is that like normal people like you and me can watch it and be like, okay, whatever. But then some people who have a different mind then are overtaken by it and they start doing really extreme stuff to the women in their lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because so it's dangerous and like to us it's not dangerous, but there are certain people that are acceptable to this type of thing and they never really clarify very well how you're actually supposed to like they demand like they make a big focus on like women submitting and all this stuff, right? But they never really explain it. So they leave it
Right.
sort of open to interpretation and then these like dudes that are
And then
following them
people can like hardcore, like take advantage of it and do crazy
like
stuff. Yeah.
well, they might even not be taking advantage. They might just think that's what they're supposed to do, right? To be a
Right.
good Christian. And so then they start, and there are some really weird horror stories where like
Yeah.
women are like, they have to stay on their like knees and they can't get up unless their husband tells them to, and like all this crazy. And then they start saying like that you're just slightly above the child. So like, because we're the teaching that man, God, Father, uh,
Jesus. Yeah.
God, Jesus, father, wife, son, or children.
Yeah.
So then they start saying that the wife is basically like a child. And so when
That's
you're
where that
supposed to,
twist that. Yeah.
yeah, you're
It's
supposed to be like one flesh, right?
one
Like you're
flesh.
one
Yeah.
flesh.
Counterpart. Even though the man is the head and the
And if
ultimate
I'm
leader.
like a child, then why the heck do I need a savior? No.
Right. But yeah, this comment from this brother I appreciate because there was a time when if I just mentioned the name Steven Anderson, I'd have like 100 different Steven Andersonites, like Andersonites, as we called them back in the day, I'd literally get 100 people attacking me right now on this channel. It was like a swarm. It was crazy. But
So
yeah,
that's what happens when audiences build people who watch somebody build a parasocial relationship with a figure, and so
there's a lot to it. I used to, like really love him, like watch him myself. But that's what happens. There's like some things like, okay, I'm like, well, that part I don't agree with, or I just don't agree with this part because that's not actually biblical. And if you're not like in like the movement, like if you disagree with like any point of doctrine, you're like you're an anathema, and then you're out, And what I saw happening was a cycle of this, like, would happen to like 12 people or something within the movement. And then you'd get the new Andersonites would come in who are just like new to it. And then they would get recycled until they kind of got to the top and were like, maybe talking to Steven Anderson, and then they would say something wrong or do something wrong. It was just this pattern in this cycle. And then, yeah, as the brother is saying here, is that it's gotten worse, and you could see it's an abusive
oh
pattern.
my gosh, how could it
Yeah.
get any worse than what it
Well,
was?
yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's
That's
crazy.
disturbing.
But it's sad because he was such a dynamic speaker and preacher. Like it was, it could be enjoyable to listen to the way that he explained scripture, especially in like there's like a certain sweet spot of his teaching when I think he had that green kind of painted background in his old church, but like a landscape or something. And he had some good sermons like on doctrine, and like when he was talking doctrine, and a lot of it was pretty right on, it was spot on, other than like the hatred, like extreme hatred that would trigger him on certain people, certain topics.
I think pride was
Yeah, like
Pride.
you could
pride was where he fell.
Yeah, pride. What, Megan?
like really he like would flip a switch, which was
Oh
is
yeah.
kind of scary because then we find out what happened with the kids and the wife. So
Yeah, which kind of lines up, according to their testimony.
but
So
apparently the mother was abusive as well. So it wasn't just
yes,
him.
right. Well, from what the kids said in one of the videos, he was abusing her, and then she would abuse the kids. So it's like this
They
pattern.
both abused the kid. Yeah, like
That they
he
both, yeah, and they
yeah.
both abused the kids. Yeah, abused the
But
kids.
the kids said that the dad's abuse was more he would like lose his temper and just grab something, right? But the
Yeah,
mom was more calculated.
right.
So
She was, yeah, she looked kind of like a cold. My wife is German, so I mean, no disrespect. My wife's half German and half Irish, but isn't she like German? She had like this kind of cold demeanor a
I
little
think
bit. So
she
it was like
straight
scary.
up came from Germany, like straight up.
Yeah, yeah. And hey,
Like
I've
he
got
he
like German
brought her
friends. I'm
from
not like
German.
disrespecting Germans by any means.
Yeah.
But
I
it was
think she
just that
literally
demeanor.
came from Germany. So
Yeah, but interesting. Yeah, I hope I don't get like 100 Andersonites. I don't think he has those Andersonites anymore like he did in the day. You know, because man, it was like a year plus of just constant people like coming on this channel over that, but made me strong, Megan. So it was a good thing. But anyway, we've been over 3 hours,
yeah, we
so
should probably end it there.
yeah. Well, despite everything, all the geopolitics, one thing I posted on my Facebook, we're just chatting. Like I'm trying something a little bit different, just talking instead of just constantly going over scripture and doctrine, which is something, of course, is important to do. But sometimes it's fun to just have these discussions. But at the
I
end of
think
the
it's
day,
extremely important because it's like we were having issues with the left, right? Where we couldn't discuss things. Then it kind of eased up a little bit, but then now it's getting back to being sort of crazy, like on our side. So I think we should be able to talk about these things and point out the bad ideas surrounding the conspiracy theorists around some of this stuff. And, I've been a conspiracy theorist my entire life, and I've come to realize that a lot of the conspiracy world are not good researchers, and a lot of the stuff people will make things up, like documents and stuff, and then it starts getting spread. And then when you're a conspiracy theorist and you get it from somebody that you think you trust because they're not lying, they don't know it's fake, so then it gets spread out throughout all the conspiracy world and it becomes like real, right?
yeah,
And so there's a lot of stuff that I have learned that the conspiracy world is just not good at research. Okay.
right.
And so you have to be really careful.
There's a lot of propaganda on the right as well as the left. Like that
Yeah.
propaganda is coming from both sides. And the
Yeah.
right, unfortunately, sometimes is kind of dumb in a way of just believing things without evidence or without, it's just sorry to say that, we've all fallen into it. And then the left are dumb in the other sense of falling for whatever trans stuff or, kind of all the crazy, leftist ideology. But the right has its own kind of conspiracies that it's like, there was a time when like it seemed like every conspiracy was coming to pass. And we're like, oh man, like what isn't true, but that was just maybe a moment, but there are a lot of things that just are not true, that people
Yeah,
are
like
pushing
it's crazy. It's getting wilder and
on
wilder every
crazy.
day.
Right. It's
Like
a
they
lot of
say,
propaganda.
they're saying now that Stalin was Jewish and that his wives were Jewish
Right.
and that the whole communist thing in in um Russia was all Jews. And that is like not true. Like some of them were, and there are reasons, logical reasons why that's the case. And so, well, one of the reasons is the Tsar of Russia was doing pogroms against the Jewish people, and the Bolshevik just means majority. So they were the Democratic Socialist Party of Russia, and inside that party, one group, like a faction, like broke off to its own thing and called themselves the majority, and that's what Bolshevik means in Russia. So they just said we're the majority, and of that group, that was 23,000. Less than 1,000 of them were Jewish. Um, so, and yes, the like certain leaders were Jewish, like Lenin and stuff or whatever, but Stalin certainly wasn't Jewish. He was Orthodox Christian, and they made up like this whole genealogy document and
There's a
started.
lot of misinformation out there. Like, you have to be
I
careful.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
it is targeting. It's like a psyop against the right, because we are
yes.
right on so much that we're being targeted too with these
Yeah.
conspiracies. So we'll have to come back and talk about some of
Yeah,
that
we'll
other
have to
stuff.
like maybe
Go on
just
your
have like
channel.
a weekly or talk or
Yeah,
something. I don't know, but
yeah, we'll definitely get together and talk. I'll come back on your channel, and maybe we can go back and forth sometimes. But yeah,
okay.
you guys tune into our previous discussion on Megan's channel, and God bless you all. Megan, thanks for coming on. I just feel like before we go, just encourage everyone to
And that won't be
focus.
out for like till next week sometime, so it's not out
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, that'll be like mid next week or early to mid next week on your channel. So everyone go to the Eclectic Journalist for that discussion. But I just want to tell everyone, the most important thing is Jesus Christ and putting your faith and trust in him. So, this is normally a Bible channel. We just thought, let's do something and just talk, about whatever comes up around these topics. But just remember, at the end of the day, all that we really truly do know and all that we truly do believe is that Jesus Christ is Lord. God bless you all. God bless Megan. Thanks for
Thank you for having me on. See you later. Bye.